Order.
I'm going to pray for all the interpreters today and also for all the members that we have a good day. We're coming to our weekend. And so I want to pray for that in my language. Because this is for the children, the youth, and grandchildren too for the future. So I'll say a prayer in my language. Jesus in the city and go to the our Kate or Tina so go heaven at that and so go King dead and go head and so go or King London. The Lata Tinkola, Yunakaguchaga like it down that I go up Nazoku Kenny Ticola. Jesus in the city and go a caritin. A quita guy Marie Siri, within the cardi way. Yezuna choe dying la equitagal maris written heaven at that and he quarantine something in it massive choe tabi of lovets and contigular nizira count and tabi of lovets and contigular nizira count and massive.
La Cadejo, Miss Clearacy, Massi Medicina, Thanjona Jalatida. La jamais kwenza ke gade le sekontega da khade masetene gote ajo gotlin dego asian kwentlo 90 legeti jikajo motselin shonde de ra ajo gonane shu sene zu khani kwekwa go on got khani ajo atladu on go etira jin shumerts etas go on da jo gotlin dego asian shu khani on da ke ami fanena ke de din shu go Q90 le da asian shu se gonate on sekots elias gongots amik elik ekiki deshu eda tejena heda tahelisi ejmegali lanit ashe khane kwe khane ehleni lasits eje khane aso atsulegeti eda ejikonane shula aso duhte kotlinte ko eje khane da aso nitsutageti eda jo dene ago desi edi cutie make announce ethiga so go o at Q90 le counted Nacho tene ako tesi eti tetsak o teke kitishik and okay there's go o era eji Tlelat and osin lanu la meli sabakanet e lilanit a eji kanits eke kwetene la sia jo gotlin de go gotin kwe kani go la sia jo go Ekake Gedi, Eda Ejda Megali like Entalina in Dagots out Dick Hanea so go Eda Dicho Sabanalets and get it in like Quenteni Lassi, Cloud Due Canu dots only cookeni Sigeti, Eda Asian Shuajon Cloudes Egay does go on, Eda in Deuki Heights and a seat in Death's Egg out the sea Quen Catlilat on West and Hadilanida, Ajon Canacogi, Lagos Egonane Quen, Elianela Unkilat and West and Hano. Thing Lilani Jana Teseko Legas Gotsunshik Egala Getageti, Eratenea Gote, City Jomegas et Tasish Megali Lanila Sekona Tasekots Elias go on. Go di Queteni la at la Dushe Gotlin Dego Asia Elia Take Digos on Jepema Chats Onka, Queteni la Canel Hulat and its end you know Lilanit Ajon Jana Taseko Gain Lound a di Quela make Hanifan and Nage de Siji Kanu again Lagos and make Elik Uki de Kanits and Gain Lound a Eraten at Honduek Hak Alaji Quajo taking Iwagint a Erati Kane Quadeni Lats and Gets and you know Ding Lilanit a DJ Catlo de Siajon Cloud e Azon enia ke le ke ti pecho kwen khani hleni la hono lilanit a e ji tlaute je tsogale kin taut e go zo ji ko nane shu khania kin la se ka sho go tie e ji go ti je redele kwets e shu jo tlaute e je tso ko ke le ke ti e ra ti kha jo tlaute je tsogala ke ta wa ke te go zo ko nane shu le hleni kwets on tu ha zo ta khoni ko kin ta ga e ra je elu ta ko ke ti si khania kwen hleni la hono lilanit a je tu te e khatlo te so ko zo jo ke le ga e ra ji la me ga li la ni se ne ja ko tsule ke ti te ne ko te si ti si khaundi li la ni da se ne zu me tson li la ni da a me kwen ke ni de ji se met au de on te da ti khaundi si jo ko tlin te ku ke jin si a jo khau te kwen khani si jo ja ko ke tsia ke ti Eda khati khoti ti like enta lina da ami khani ko khja ko la sikha jo kana ko tse le ga ke ti eda asian dance and all that in that high heights and lina da khelat and osin la lo la meli sampa khane te khak achne thanu la meli sampa khane te so a jo thaute I khwe it's enti lat and no so jets ke da se niki da ke ti eda tene ko te city la ki khani si what's a dude ele e jimega la khothasene zigo ons ene de khani atla thwasina na taeli ne jago tine da shi khani wa ke ti era na hi shu khak entalina si mets ogala tseta go era te ji khani tsegala ke ta si ko tinte ko ke ji a jo thau te seni se tsule ke ti ta khadi masite ne ko te Iratila is you gonna take all the Mr. Premier Jagontiga. Ratena go te city kanitanet ege arjon tes ege nikeni lasi ejo tek again lounge and I indi Detanete had 2007 a kizo UN general like a ticket de siajon cloud e taking it around a Ejila ta seko dio kanit ekrets en gewalne te nezu ko tsendits en dat en amikus en kanik al de ging this is it's like again loud e da ejila Canada ka fa diets en edit de kerjon si kanit all like in talet a ka one kanit da kugeni the und e da a q high 2023 si edition sabana le ka hono hylits en ejon kleke de si de dia edition jo cloud se kane again lawont e ena khati ejikunane kha kone ajo khane da je ejimi sabanage ko BC and Keshkin Lound era Ejikonane shoe Kani Downty Damets on Segots and Legason did Anna Hishu Ejik Haley Lanidajo Contas at the neck out they can make a neg fanegala get da Sijiko Hes Gokos and Lound era dia Sigajo Canada occasion Lilandis and a Zudisho go Hegalats at Dazago o era counting it down did I say the Mezzo Gots and Legason de era Jotene go te see Dutsene sia jon cloud simo go dega di atla I kani UN declaration get distinct and at say atla jon tene kani go tseke anigeni dasi ejmegali la gotlin de go Asian go so tene kani kontas and like out deke go target ia countiene de je gotlin de ate la tani dasi gala get dasia jon kani je mejite lo de kani je gala get da and at gala dasi gotlin de go Asian sene jo Canada again lounge a erati kanimek egala get la go diegala tasia me tathe la de go zoji nejite la tondira tenets India se kanya jo me tathe lounge e Erajo dene ago de city kanit na tsenigeni da la kak and dalina je zongala getaga eraji lam dets ego de ke tondira jo sits on nezini cooking a tondira hegala geta tondira jo a go to make egala tseta si a jo go digala geta ke khanya geliga era de gala ta si kak one joni da kyugini theund e atlaki Akiri agency and no get the and I should go none shoe make island like done it agency again line then as you get wet that goes on sheds also south the second lega. Era dia si county ni de mega lilani tane ajosi seke legason de ajijana tane kongeni aussi kozo tondira tase etia koti se ajon saute kanike witi kozo ajon kontage dia eta enti sai lilani tati tana se si ajon saute mega tsutage di eji mega lilani aje met aude kozo tondira se ola geta sonde eta eji met only lani tane zia kotega eta tene kote se ikotlin de ko eji kanite Like a lucky clet hata gijout ele is la cat thought dear is all like in down a good so is the sick county on Canada go agency is la the Kelly goes like a caninigini owned a And I cut the could e cut hearts in the neck out deck go to go nane go hegala get that say massi go he good you seen that large on how did the hegala get that it as you may riley not send is you not said hegala at that goes does and is your sick on that nico thing I get the at like then now that's like a arts and as you go none should done that hegala get that can you get the massi then I go there massi then I go and I could Ejones ko tsentit and that's and get other contea. Then I go there say do hike Atlantic Hanico you get and DC met all the own day at la Gotlin deads and get se go none should not do honey go you say it's a you kick for honey go target in the dash get the and I do send a lilani that ya sears or how they get on that's get the at la ame honey go you get get that series met all the own day and I said so can you seen it that's like all the case Health Canada je go hele night and not se get on a and I think and not se kakachene Tyler Melly some point that high hats all la jo contats like a mechanical you can get in seke in kaniwa gain lound a and I did la casine child a in that on it a heights like as you kiss any zoo kani as go you seke in kanisa sonnet lo do kiss any zim Kanik only legate era ejigonane katlo deo gesho contact kageni the kanuki sampashigona nine delay and ejimets only that kissen is a guchale and our Health Canada and gego headsets in Lasika Jones or Siseke Lea and that dear thets on gently not say getila ejimegaililandis and ezutane gala get dajagonata seke lea go din kaniko you seke ink issue go iko nane shua joa si konejet ji joa kanete la si jet like lea ina high on ki got on Thailand uni then de je for Delta sa two region go do de cho pema cha go sa bagini go na go ke lea ina de gala tala jo kanine ju go and this and da go tsenkia go ti on de da atla go din zo khania jo thaute go na da se go ke lea ina tene go de si ina se kha the cho again laund e je mega Linda sene zu ganit gui ala get dasi kontano get de go sene zu kane go tin go tsake dia go get di era kuditium kili lanida se masili landi Adam Dental Clinic et di chosi kane go useke isi e go hele na tsege tion de era et dia jo du besi je tlinki de new kwe jati kwe go on clicking go on na get de era And I could digital tene go the city a mechanic you say is it a good go Asian healthcare plan ke disi ke me eji meji the on a kani ho eji go nani that's like all the seas on how the sene is go he got to the get and that llega la tala megali na de go tin na ke desi go wa get and that dia ji wa get la at long ke shu go you say in si go what's it in there o ke kidi go get dale go so si how din de me so kidi den samba kini so no et de I listen de era kala ajuntauten daje zogala get daze go o era di sambanage me chekue ke go sambata go tindaje je eliland era se kontats ege ajuntauten neziana go gele ajo go tlinte go gejin go tin kwenteni la kaniwa geti masitena go de Era ko te jis ko na te kon te Mr. Prima kon te ha. Tēnā ko te si jo Honorable Jethaba Charts and ke jat arts and ke all the dutene jo na tat in le e te DNJ British Columbia si e ko jo tlaune Canadians and ke I kania jo ke te ko kongo tsana re te ga. Tunde wala dets and ke all the kon te ga. Era kati tēnā ko te si dutsen li lani te tunde wala te e je man sanguinsi in di highly lani ta kakacha sunai highly lani ta ko hela ta era ka e kua e je ano taute e te tinga e je ko tin te new ko he e wala nai ta ke te e da e je mega tsa tani te e te tia ka jo taute sene jo taute ko he se kuin long te e da e tia si county lilanit a te so kuni te si ki te di fane so je te ra ko hega line down e and I could the Yellowknife is the First Nation see aji again that can its own only lanit as an usual at the cooking loud and is it's a lily lanit at the diage on cloud eco delegate like a seat they disorder at the second loud erana hishmirats at dining day at the assimilats at that the sick honey zogalats at the summit out there and now additional as on cloud and see Dane de edi kani ko tats e konata se ko se met out on e eda we need to gain DC e de dia ka fa die e je ko hega line down de in the eda de tin shami ko hela ke ta si je ka jo ko tsai di ko ko ne thon de ko tok en ta lina ko hega line down de eda when need ha si di cho de da jo de Jonas Sangway je met de ne jo a sa jo ta kinta ke ke ko ke di eda e de jin shu say Yellowknife First Nation ko sa line down de eda ko di e ji ko ja shu danet e gin di si e de di shu ka thon ke de e wa gin de ko cha so de green liu de ke di and I should not that is sinethandi and I did sambana lazy se masi gain the atlanta the si kontako hega line down there and I kadi goes in das on sene zujo se masi kare da go hega line da me sin da e di chokolane shujo sene zi masi go ke deni dene zi di masi da could is a tutsangek all the gundega. Da kati masi chotenagote. Da kati na hishu diluk eli lanida asilo gondats et diadi. Eda kudi chotenagote siti kane go kwego on siji se met aude on de je go kwene jiga a jo go jajats ni she on edi. Era tene go desi e je tulita e je la que hono lilanit aso a jo claute e je go zo jo ni go ginta geti era ta ho e bene de kuje go zo kini go ginta le de hai go ge le ga son de Da kodeje kwe kanemega tse daini de eji se met aude atla kontatene hlode andile de kwe met aude und kandene de zuansia jon hlode sene zinko nata se go tse in go zo kanit le kwe go ane teni de kwe zena gate ina ne si ala gate da ka gate ina se met aude und da jere dele kwe tse shu ka ka gynt und Era kudi kaundini de na hishu etlete sedin lani de katule haide ga kwen go tsi soni ge de atlatishat a go kya go de go kwa go de antilet a kut in benina yeni de metsohon dek e tu wa son de and at dia se kaudeni de kajon klaude menata se gots iund That's like kind of the coach you as you go none as you thought the senezi go in a car jones out then a go in near Gnezi got a cute egos of days one should senezi go on the take it. It does see should the comment then not they want it a cushion you need any day jig out the dummy kelandi. Grace states like out the going take up. Dene akote era khadi eshikonane shu eticho khani ajona te ke ojo tswats eteni de jo ko intle khani kya ke te khani wale sindi atla Eshikonane shu nati ke ojo tswats eteni de eshiko intle tlaute jo khani ke diunte irati la satsfansi lo khanandi tsondani da jo khani ko intle tla ke da honte eta on ke shu metse de ko lejilante eta te se khaundi lilani da senezu a jo tlaute me ga lilani da senezu ko tsele azko o eta sin la khane thenti eti jo sabana lesi ti khania si tlaute senezu ki tiga zogo o Era kuti kaudeni de ejin shu ajo atla du thale shu khania si gule ko gi lara ejin shu ajo thade mena ta se ko tsile ke ti inta ejikonane shu si ajo thade khani ikotli de zank au de zank si ajo thade asi khani ko zank ajo ko gi launde That's like kind of thing. It see counting the senezim metso se gots elias go on. At la tantida in ta metso gots elias on the occasion you need then it is you gots and deeds and thoughts and get all the time you kilandi. Mackenzie Deltas and all the going there. The Kadi must sit and I go there. It all Kadi. Eshikonane shu ekochenje fort my first on so like it go get it. Ida ejila enchidiza hono latin gods on kuno thets and so do halt like it get it. Ida je megali lanit a jon cloud e kia jon go in like it go get it. Edas megali lanida ohta keshe leke te zwa koneshu megali lani ajit akhala ke tasia jo sauda ne zuni ke ko megali da serjo nats etselant edi ke ko chens ke ko eti tele ajo konane gutlin te ko keja mit leke te khani wa ke te enatia si county si eji Dene Zhatıé shu jo sauda sets ulets edi ko te si county ni de kota Shule hele landia suya joli jako gelega era konane shu se masili lane de jon tlaute kyun tlets ete geti a jokotlin de ko kejin khatane tloko thageti asondi era jomik au de jagin lisi eji shu koko thageti eni Dene Zhatıé era khoti jikenta lilani da sene zyosi khanizo wala tsetta gazo go otla kotlin de ko kejin wageti era sin shu khane Eshikonane shu amia jon khane ki ko tsa indile tsa ke jon tsa ke ti a jon thaute se ko kin laund e da shi ko wide ali lande ne zia ko kin laund e Alaska Yukon kotlin te ko Asian shu e de tin so jo e ki je Fort McPherson beleke te ko target ya son de da khati ikonane shu e de tin jo all den shu sene zin ko target any Dene Zhatıé de message on the go there Massi Mackenzie Delta so gather kakwinta. And you will bullets and get out the gundiga. La Kadi Massi then go there. And I Kadi Massi Ganshu edition on da ke kanegots and ke at la 2015 socials and ke kane kaking on wound a. Eda a QK a she Kanit a me Tlatjuno go I go onesi eji da te tlelat ono onsin lano lani de go nata nikeni da honte. Eda khati se kishe go taso eji laute dicho eji da te juno what's ending lilani go nata nitso da geti. Atla eji kontrats ek au deke ik go hela se go gin laute era e QR jo laute sijet on wala gin down deke di era kudi eji me heli lani da seneza go gin la era edit like enta lilani jenata internet's not senegini on e Era khati ejin shumeratsa dani de e kyojo kutsan dutsene zon kyeji takin dije kya ko kin laut ele khani ho khaji ko nane shuje nyuve ko tsan keji unta kyojo laute se ko tsuleke di khajo laute da je zon wala kin ta kyugeni theunde Era khote nyuve shu dikhake di eji ko nane shu eji tare da zon zon si khane je zon wala kin ta si Goza e go nane shu dia se counting de tare da sia jo laute na kin ega soni geti. Era kote counting de na he shu enta lilani da a me khane onta khyoja geti sik enta goza tse dia geti e kyushe nuni deni dene zu go zendi zenda zenge gau dem da mi kelandi. Eda mofi kontega. Rakhate masitena go de edakate eji pecho ko sitena lodwe je ko tanake teketi ena khotia jo khin chogo da nake desi ji sa ko ontene lod egeti ena khotia se khaudene de je meta khalat etta sia jo khaude sene ko tsel go o go zo mi sa chome chi gegen tishu khani go tsake shu go tsel go o eta ji le su lai lilani da meketa le si la mechine chok khani etsene jo khani wadi Eda kuti ko nane shu amia jon khaute ko target isi ete tishu sene zu ko hegala ke daini de eji eni tle khani meta satsome chink etsene jo khani ko un chu tlani de zo ke di Edaji becho kosi eji jo sare tare da tsanke so jo kine zu ko he ko tinegeti Edaji ko nane shu megatsa edani de eji ko nane shu ami khani is intlesi ko unchu tsanke satsome chin ketsane jo intlesi eji shu jo khaute sene zu I kunata seko ke liazgo o Edana hi shu tats etila eji ko nane ko tin satsome chin nyake lesi tsanke shu egala ta keshu ko eji ko diu kyushe me chin ke ne jo khani tsanke shu jo seko ke legeti Eda pecho kola ji satsome chin keli tiny IQ she ko zon kidoe IQ shanake deund e Era cho tene ko desi eji ko nane beats e datlin kwen ko zon pecho kola se ko o kyushe kyune chaunt e Era ji tlin kwen la tene ki sanet nake de khani ho je pecho kon tene nake de Era ko ji Eda pecho koko zo edit I sabagini zoguni out eda I sabanadlets and geji gotlin detsek out deke ede diansene zo kelik esego geligas go o gozo di amikani itleko onchu satsome chins and geshuji ajo haudishna tasego gelia de kinuni deni dejik out the dami kelandi the mafik hagoinda Eda resets and all the gontega.
Le dernier rapport de la vérificatrice générale sur les services à l'enfance et la famille souligne une crise en milieu de travail qui s'aggrave. Les intervenants de première ligne quittant leur poste en raison de l'épuisement professionnel et des charges de travail insoutenables, ce qui met en danger les enfants vulnérables. Malgré des années de réponses principales axées sur les mesures financières, le problème persiste et s'aggrave. Les travailleurs sociaux m'ont-ils qu'ils étaient déçus de la réponse de la ministre à ses préoccupations la semaine dernière, alors qu'elle est encore une fois passée à côté et n'a proposé aucune solution pour remédier à un statu quo qui ne fonctionne pas. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General's devastating report on child and family services is behind many of the failures identified is a growing staffing crisis fueled by frontline worker burnout and turnover, leaving vulnerable children to fall through the cracks, which widen with each vacancy, which is as high as 34%. That crisis has been raised in audit after audit, and it points to an inescapable truth. The government's focus on financial incentives as a fix-all for recruitment continues to miss the mark. 3/4 of frontline staff would not be operating above the department's 11-case cap, and nearly a quarter would not be carrying more than 30 cases if those solutions were working. This is not just an administrative failure. It is a human resource crisis that has already led to staff missing mandatory monthly wellness checks for 91% of children in care. Last week, I raised these concerns, and consistent with the approach of her predecessors, the minister's response did not address excessive caseloads or workload standards. Instead, she returned to housing shortages and national recruitment pressures, failing to engage with the fact that her department can't even retain workers in the first place. We know we can address the needs of social workers. In the United Kingdom and Australia, governments are moving beyond rhetoric and taking concrete action with mandatory 20% caseload reductions for early career social workers and automated workload tracking introduced to signal when a regional office reaches unsafe capacity. Yet here in the NWT, Health and Social Services has never actually assessed the financial and human resources required to deliver these services, despite being called to do so since 2010. My question to the Minister of Health and Social Services, Mr. Speaker, is clear. When will she stand up for social workers and the families who depend on them and commit to codified caseload caps and structured workload protections for frontline workers? When will she stand up for the social workers? Thank you.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Member statement. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Yellowknife school boards continue to experience significant pressures under the current GNWT education funding formula and have been advocating to MLAs for change. The current funding formula is intended to provide equitable funding across education authorities. However, in practice, it does not fully reflect the real and escalating costs associated with inclusive schooling, staffing pressures, and operating the schools. Several of our school boards face unique cost drivers that are not adequately recognized in the formula. Unlike most other education authorities in the territory, the Yellowknife education districts directly manage their own human resources, facilities maintenance, and operational services. These responsibilities create additional fixed and variable costs. The current formula does not respond to changes in student complexity or mobility. When schools welcome students with complex learning, behavioral, or medical needs, funding does not adjust to reflect the additional staffing, supports, and resources required to ensure those students can be safely and meaningfully included in school communities. Similarly, when students transfer into schools during the school year, there is no corresponding adjustment to operating or instructional funding, despite immediate impacts on class composition, staffing pressures, and space. As a result of these gaps, Mr. Speaker, boards are required to dig into surplus savings, which should be used for facilities maintenance, to supplement core GNWT funding to meet student needs, often reallocating resources away from other priorities to maintain effective learning environments. This approach is not sustainable, and a solution is needed which recognizes the unique circumstances facing these school boards. We need a review and refinement of the education funding formula to ensure it more accurately reflects actual costs faced by the school boards facing these unique circumstances, including the full cost of inclusive schooling, staffing, recruitment, and retention pressures, student mobility and mid-year enrollment changes, and the additional operational responsibilities carried by the boards who manage their own facilities and staffing. Addressing these issues is critical to ensuring the funding model supports both equity and adequacy, and that our education authorities can meet the needs of all students without continued reliance on board-level supplementation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll have questions for the minister at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Member from Frame Lake. Member statements. Member from Dene Zhatıé.
대초적 어데곤데가 락하디존데라고 데시 에시고나니 데스완에서 깨자 디시시스메트 아우데온데 Enakade on cashew des on sake dini de kitishik enake theasgo on goto de kani ashuniake legimetal de kani ho ejiami tletnak and des on go keke disi sene masikots etiasgo on enakade du se ami kani eri lekwen go ago ne temi go nani shu des on go hela get dasi ete diase masikodu sinathendi enakodi deno kilina masikodu sinathendi atla J'ai dû salir Dene Zhatıé de l'Église Eda etedia se masi go he ala geinda geidi at la kontagotzak Eda atets o constable and miss Eda etedia ka 2026 lilani di IOD tsank eji etati tsank eji go he ala geta si go agini jagini onde Eda kati ete dinga ete zwa khane ke uti tsanke si eti kha sa tie te zwa go hega ne si go onke te khane eji go hega la kinta ti da masimiri sinethendi eda khoti Thurston go kinti si ete dia kha fa tie khane te zwa khane asina ke je tsanke e go hega la inta onde eda ete dia je mega tseta ni te zwa konya si khane ga la ke ta go tsake met out and das Forsten se massimilison athendi and I should des one contats and get canegwats at Dani de Megali Nadi Sene Zikonata Seko Elias go on. Des one cyclone can again do the mechanics and DC Sene Ziko can again do and the me contats and get Dalina contats and get Guagala get Andrew goes a go naneshu and Mia Jean Claude des one go get this and massicolis in a thing. Now he canegala. Ta megali na konta na ke tselang te di masin tene agote. Da te chosen ka de kagoinda. Yellowknife North ka de gondega. Era khate masi tene agote si na hishu de khane gala ta tsake se ko tselias go on. Atlashi ko nane shu ami khane ko gala ke ta si un ke shu ne je go ha ko tele laun tele ta di khane tsake se ko tselias go on. Era je kwen se ne zi ko tse si counting de ami khane kwen jaki si khane ko tsake da se ne je ko na ta se ko tselega zo go on. Era dia si counting de se ne zu ko na ta khane ko one tenko ko tselega zo. Era dia si counting de je ko nane shu se ko kwen zo hone lilane da si da ko onu tenke di. Counting de din shu khatilek en da lilane da ami khane ko hegala ke ta si ne je ko tsake di. Era na shu ko nane shu khatene sanete ko te ke iwaginte. Era shi ko tengala ke ta tsake shu khontha tsake ko hegana ta ke iwaginte. Era shi de jinsho Aurora College and Kesija sita ko ala keta ko ako gene tansi e jinshu sene jago Elias go o. Adasha ko nane shu dane hlami take disi ka on kyashu khani ke dewangente. Era tani khani ken dalina ko ako gene tansi e jimegali nane ko Elias go o. On kyashu dan da molan de zo geti on kyashu hle hale de on ki ha ko taki iga ka ko ne je shita ko ne tansi ko ko take ji ko geti. Era je counting de megali lani kenesia ya go in laund Eda dia si counting de mechanic walk on a tense like SNA zoo go hair go Elias go on. At long cashew Alberta she go to get the Canada get on the Cani Hoji Canit Lake Current and now they got like that's like all the key Canico Digo on Tatake all the laund ele. Dako nane seko o sita ko ne thone itna seko unt aund da eji shulton ke khane ko he ne juje tsogala ke tale laut ele Eracho tene ako tesi ejila kiko nane shutia sina tade simegali lanita dia mi khania sitswala keta sene zinko nata ko tselega soko o masitene ako te Yellowknife North all the kakwinta the Yellowknife Central all the kontea Era kati I hondi lanita eji du thalisi I deswa kanik o disak egonti hukuinteti. Era kati tira sik e wakotan tilaut ele atla eji konane kamegat etta kanyo says gots in laut ele. Era kati sin shu kani sene zu se hea got ileni de ka jonzo eji konane shutani dasi sek eso ajotaute asimetso galat Tagasonte, and I she that's like all decade tacots he can is you get the lot and I 2026 like a son those ones like a good decay. Eji teke sene zumet atets dilelant elete. Eji la 2018 ke de goes on high 2014 like eji gondis like kaki onte. Eji ke gain tara sene zuaji wa gen dijek and now ke thegas go on. Era tia se counting ta se eji a me kaniko intlese isi sene zuke gai ta county ho eji te zwa kaniko like kisene ziagot illegate like and lani da shun kwako kinte and that ya si counting te edi shua jun taute megatseta gozon ke shu dia ji khania ke ta se ji jets only lani gala ke ta gazo go o And I did one is ya hitle got like ya got in out ne zingo heshua got in le and I dear make hania jo thousand lekai on se de dinga kanikon di kai on di kine zingo hair got in the out elegate and I should send a zimek and out ethera and a zimeto wala to tagete and I should dick on a voice sageti see meto only not in as you go here. Tere tileti atlamite zo kontanyake lesi ejikshukine zeko hagot in the laut ele eratik all the kind de din highly lanit ajik all the going leont eda kuti ejikak achen lilat and all lilet lanik all the ainteont era kuti Edition zu at Ireland de edition massi jona het hat ida se aji what's edison zimo got unte landi massi and era kodi eji here results and get all the eji konte Rakati Dutsene Lilanit Eji Kakachene Silano once anti Halilane Buffalo Airways like a Sigake Legoketi at La Downida Silano it's anti Hakak Onajon how them the Zumbets let's dig at la Atlaji don't did as on cloud the Jack Hotlo the Canits at I cook anything king wait for got an ugly building AG go not issue met so onion is a good jound I'd like Joe McBride get dishes again did like a de dia kakachane thought did and go hega line down And I could the Buffalo Airways go get DC AG come on deal clogin the old and I did dear Kafa dear Gotlin go Asian gay got say I get like Hanida got on the gate de und and I do send a lilanida then a Jean that's a see a day dear AG go none Kanya jolat a kane get since a keda AG a josi Khaled Vazon got like go hegala get down Era kati eshikona shu thlaukilia gijout ele thlauti Buffalo Airways dilane da kontashu ko hegalageta ko geti goza asi thlodue goza gakele goza onkeshu deneta elat ake etega no ke tira jo thlaude konta goza ake atiunde era kai ki High 2023 ki kone chagi jasi e kiwa ajit ani densia jo cloud go ga ke da honte eda ejin shu ajo khat ajo cloud seneze go heli lane akokin launde Era kodi tene go te se e te dia jo cloud seneze go hegala kinta McBride go ke disi te ti kyokeni the o te da se masi go ru sine thendi Era here era kati eji Empress line 21 elilane chia desa hono it's ending 20 gozo kuno ki ha 2025 and ki gala kin tako ke DJ cleaning queen gozo foot memories and ke era ete dia jo laute tene khane ko ko gene thon gozo gotlin de gozo kontra and tene ko helin gala kin down de era di khets and ke sita ko gene thon leji down to da sene je na ta se ko ke in atla aji tu ko net so what in ko ta ke sia jo ko je ke ko ke inte ke ti era ji ko nane shu ji down to the Empress ko nane ko hegala ke ta si ji sa so ko kyuno kheni a ke e ji la down to the ke a jo te asit met utile ke ti ke da je na ta se ko ke laut e era ti kha ko ke la se te me ko he ke la se te je jo hegala ke down e era ti khani je gala ke ta ne da tle ko ke te si ki ji khani so ele e ji me ga li la ne da so laut je ke gala ke ta khani wa ke ti era e ji te choko ji sa tu ko ke ji e ji shu so laut ke hegala ke down e Era te asi khane ko one tla khasine chaunde e je me gaili lane ko ti on tleta in tlesi ta ku jani de kyute je ke nau ke thera se ko ke lias go on era te asi met au de on eta e je ko nane ko thaze ka de ke me ko he gala ke ta e je ji a jon khlen kwen First Nation ko zo de cho je peze kwen ko zo tze ke de lin sa ba ke ko zo ko nane sa chu kwen de ni la je tlekyun ni ko zo tutli da ko Alberta e shatego ke dishu go helina gala ke down e era dia mea jon khaude kyushe te kana ke te e te dishu aji khane ane zigo onke te khane se ke ta jon khaude go zoku ke down e era te khane ko tsake disi go tin tene te chin tha kya te khane tene now that's like a se jon khaude je na ta shune ke ni da onde era khai ki she jon khako ke la si ko ti o sa ku jani de jin shu jon khaude je na ta ne zia ko ke la onde era te khane tle he gala ke ta si me ga li la ni da se ne zu ko onke ni de khane ta tle he ko ke la onde Era ji te choshu don't do that josi segin la e te di la kuti e je Fort McPherson e ji son kuti asa ku jani je je tsak ya sia jon cloud ne zine ko geni onde era ji du le ko jon khani kwens e shu go di noi asi e ji shu jon cloud je na ta se ko gin la ka ko gin la ra se kuti asa ku jani de je na ta shu jon se ko ke le tsak era ko ko ne thonde era ti mega Dene Zhatıé go nane shu joji khani me tsenke khani ke jai tisi jo khaude lena tse go zon tha thats e dati era ji emperor se masili lane go rusine thendi e ji go wali lane ka jo sine ji wats e ta go zo da jo khaude go se go ke le tsenke ga ke ti masi Na puts like all the conte la khati masit ne akote Ela kotinana puts se ejigonane amia jon cloudin de tanet sajon go hule si masigurus nethende eda mes Lucy Wokisi de diage mot ins ela e je takyo taxi on ta go ejime tina ime pari hini ko me moshugin de eda ejigonane mes vale kalokosi vale lats inta silia in lisi contanejon go mot in senezu que neshon de eda eji de tina kako mo in leon de go eji compari leon de vale senezu go nezu de eda ejigonane Mr. James Adams de ne konya leon de tina khane me jale on Sandy goes on Sarah go shine leon de that is one from Dego Hulegedi, and I could Mr. David Noxana Senior Game DC, a did la onta in leon de, and they didn't shoot Cassie so that me on that Tongos of the Netlo Due goes on easy on de. Mestivus gruppen det in la ajon cloud du tale shume hulegedi e Louise go mo in le go zo kani ajon cloud contact ke go hera la in down de la kodi Mr. Fred Butchak det in la imets ke go in the go zo Contact met any clogunly, or Gashu, je can't go out down the deck, had dig all the down this only this and as you like any did not send it. And I as you do tell as you John, I would like a line down there. And I did Chicago tie in Leon there. And I go none as you Miss Mary. Pokak in DC, et did not this one onya canimets on there. And I should cash on how they go nuts and diggers go. And I could Mrs. Linda Thrasher's issue found it and me near Lani that the Nagan taking did a catch on also minutes and diggers go. And I should go none should do thale contact again Mrs. Dora Radish me hulegeti Dora la gomo in le gomo shu in le gom body shu le de in that done de high nazi me here quint elegeti Mr. Freddie Marcus the white horse like done de high go hena line dasi as you me healet I should go de Kyogo's and as a cognac and chigete consoni teageti Eda ejigo nane shugo tagatene so duego hulegedi. Eda ejigo nane si eji amike go tagiat in a si eji se me hutle one de singati masi tenagote. Eda kadina hishu eji masi lilani da dicho ajo lade go kauna de gente. And I could take it down in Lanita, did the go get kegate, Jamita, Kita gate, is see Massy could you see nothing. And I cut the Massy, then I go there, see a dish or race it and get Hannah got at least a dish or gate in the at least I seen lime sound they get it. Fina Ray. Et des générations qu'on dit and dots and I like it that she got on made two shoes, she got hair like that one day. Yellow night centers on other container. And I had they should go on the race sets like a shoe, Fiona Ray, et des dear massy medicine than day. Eda me tala se setsani in leon ede. Eda ju setene zio de gente. O kesho ne zio me heko one de sene zio na da dion de. A me ta kigret e se ja sim ko ketega. Ako te amiko nan tile se masi dicho sabanele ati rana hijo hono lile et si chokotin deko kejina etekini tara disho eti unde da se masi lilane jo tene jo taki kwaze da metau de agedi. Ena kut se isi met eko tsente agedi ena kut ijo rishe tseke kaude kontega.
The graduation of
And I had Christina goes on Justin, see Aurora College, see she thought the see Canit Aquanet Togedida, Messi good in the Christina La Dicho, as on thought the Jamaican the mode in the issue, the Digage on thought the Joko he like in down the da se Messi Christina, era se Dicho, Junati Joko he like the itleme won't on the getty. La asit isi metzenko tsantega da could teach on Grace Day so asion kontega.
Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Health and Social Services explain what parties within the GNWT provided the extensive requirements for a new electronic health record system RFP? That is, if the oversight included end users such as healthcare professionals, both medical and administrative, as well as technical or subject experts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Great Slavey. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the requirements that were developed through a structured collaborative process led by the department, working closely with three Health and Social Services Authority. There were nearly 500 people across the GNWT health system who provided input. This included frontline users such as physicians, nurses, allied health professionals, administrative staff who use the electronic records every day. Their involvement ensured that the requirements reflect the real practical needs in the healthcare setting. It also included technical and subject matter experts who were involved, including IT specialists, health informatic professionals, privacy and security expert, and procurement advisors. Thank you.
Social Services. Member from Great Slavey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When a proponent is selected for the new health record system, is there an anticipated prototype testing period? That is, will NTHSSA or the other authorities' staff and/or technical GNWT staff will test that? And will the proponent be able to identify and squash bugs? Thank you.
Thank you. Member from Great Slavey. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after a proponent is selected, the project will include several testing stages, such as configuration, user acceptance testing. Health authority staff, including clinical administrative users, as well as GNWT technical staff, will take part in this testing. This testing will help confirm that the system works properly in real-world NWT healthcare environments. The procurement process also includes proof of concept stage to confirm the system will function within the GNWT's technical environment. And under the control of the proponent, it will be responsible for fixing any problem found during testing, including software bugs, performance issues, and other deficiencies before the system is fully rolled out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Range Lake. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Who will be, can the minister tell me who will be responsible for day-to-day governance decisions that will steer the management of this new record system, especially if it's found at a later date to be deficient in key areas such as technical, privacy, operational usability, or any other key concerns? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Great Slavey, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a formal governance structure will oversee the day-to-day management of the new electronic health record system. Governance committees will include representatives from all three health authorities, including physicians, clinical staff, health leadership, department officials, technical experts, and these bodies will be responsible for guiding decisions and addressing the system it's found to have technical, privacy, usable, or operational concerns. Thank you.
To Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member for Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given that 75% of frontline social workers exceed the 11-case cap and nearly carry double and sometimes triple the workload, which I consider unsafe working conditions, can the Minister of Health and Social Services explain why the department has never done an assessment of their total resourcing needs required to support their operations in the social services space. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, within the Child and Family Services, within NTHSSA, I believe that the assessments that have been done, and then they do the, when they do the business process and put forward for additional positions, that within 2018 and until 2026, they did put forward a number of positions forward because of the assessments that were done. I believe that there was 56 additional positions put into Child and Family Services to support the system. However, with the shortages and the vacancies right now, I believe that there is ongoing work internally to analyze internally, and also they're going to be doing an assessment and working with and reaching out to staff right now. Before December. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Member, oral questions. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And even with, I was around for those 56 positions, even with those 56 positions, the assessment was never done. So now we're hearing it will come in December. I hope the minister will, I hope we will see those numbers because we need to see them. Mr. Speaker, I talked about a number of initiatives other jurisdictions have taken. So let's talk about mandatory caseload caps on new social workers to ease them into the job. This is done in many other jurisdictions to great success. Why has the minister not looked at practical solutions like that support social workers, keep them from being burnt out, and keep them from immediately being saddled with caseloads that are unsafe, as I said earlier? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Range Lake. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the department right now is currently in the process of doing this jurisdictional scan, and it should be available for, it's going to be completed by October 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, don't do the scan. Just get it in place. That's what we're asking for today. We're asking for some immediate action. That's the question, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister make that commitment today to put safeguards, safety guards around social workers who are coming into the profession so we can keep them from burning out? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Range Lake. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, in discussions that I've been just having with the Department of Child and Family Services and then at the department level, there is a proposed float team approach right now to try and relieve some pressures in areas where there's larger vacancies. They're initiating some peer support and debriefing teams. We're looking right now mentorships and part of onboarding training processes, as this has been identified by staff, and all of this will be and clinical and supervisor training for this summer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Yonley Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My concerns are really about systematic deterioration. Well, at least my first question is about that. Given that the minister has held the health portfolio for 909 days, and during the minister's tenure, her department's failure rate regarding children in care has actively worsened from the already catastrophic 88% to 91%. Mr. Speaker, the question really is does the minister finally accept statutory responsibility for this decline, or will she continue to blame the systematic failure remains the fault of her predecessors, or even just the process? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yonley Centre. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, I've already stood up. I've already said that I accept that there is still work to do. I understand that I've been here for 909 days, as the member has stated. But the system that was developed, that is where we're currently sitting now, didn't happen in 909 days. And I, as the minister, continuing to work in this department and continuing to show improvements. As the OAG has stated, there has been improvement since the 2018 report. There are things that were highlighted that, that we've had 79% improvement with supervision of workers out of territory placement. We've had increased improvements of more consistent of key foster caregiver documents. the previous reports were with an 81, like a 70% increase. So where we were and where we are now, yeah, it's not done. The work is not done. I still have lots to work to do, and the minister after me will continue to have this work to do because the system was set up. It wasn't set up with Indigenous people. It is, it is Indigenous kids in the system. It hasn't had, until we had Bill C-92, that's why we have the legislation moving forward so that we can work with Indigenous governments, because it will be in our legislation to say that this is what you have to do to make care plans, to care for these children, to move them into a better place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Illinois Centre.
Sure sounds like it's the system's fault if you listen carefully, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Minister is the sole corporate trustee and legal guardian of these children under the territorial law. She has possessed the clear documentation and the knowledge and experience, Mr. Speaker, on this challenge. So the question really comes down to is, because you've continued to operate at 14 to 34% frontline vacancies of social workers to be our champions and heroes of this job, with $750 million budget, Mr. Speaker, why do you continue to fail this industry when we need to entice them to stay and bring new ones in? Thank you.
Thank you, member from Illinois Centre. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, any Indigenous or any non-Indigenous or any social workers that are wanting to come into this work, this is where we are. We have the advertisements, we have recruitment going out this summer to the universities. Our Aurora College is transitioning into having the social work diploma program graduates within the next, 2 years or 3 years, and so there is still work that we need to do, improve the recruitment of Indigenous social workers and all social workers within the system. However, in the last year we've increased where social workers were able to get the market supplemental labor supplement because they were left out the first round, and that was negotiated in for them to be able to try and recruit more because of the cost of living in some of these communities. And we will continue to do the work that we need to do. That's why staff has said they need support, they need training. We are creating those pieces, and there is some restructuring going on so that, and there is also duplication of paperwork where we know that we can streamline some of that, and we're also utilizing some of our other staff that are not that can do some of the work that are not needed by the social workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Illinois Centre.
Mr. Speaker, it's clearly not money is the issue here, and certainly canceling the social worker program wasn't the solution either, but thankfully bringing it back. So, Mr. Speaker, by law, the Department of Health must assess children within 24 hours, yet the files prove that some wait as late as 16 days. Mr. Speaker, does the minister accept that allowing her department, her system that she has fought against, to violate their statutory regulations and deadlines? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Illinois Centre, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that within that, it's not acceptable, and that's why we currently have put in place since the audit was done between a certain time period, and since I became minister, there has been things put in place that the department is screening the quarterly audits and providing those to managers to make sure that everybody's, making sure that everybody's meeting the standard statutory obligations within this, and we're also reviewing many of these things across jurisdictional to see where all of our standards meet, to make sure that we are making sure that our standards are able to meet the Canadian standards and in the territory, that how do we create the system that we're going to be able to action those things within that time frame. And so that work is currently going on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Inuvik Bootley.
Inuvik Bootley tsake kaude kontega masitena kote. Era kalitena kote se ejida onta kwenje Inuvik go onwale sinti. Atla ejidutsen zenta koti wa zeti. Atlaisia mine zyko zanti zanta zanke se etedien dato onko onketi zanke keti da koti eshitaki indisi eshi data kontiga sonidi da ne zyko zanti zanta zanke kaude kontiga. La kadema sete agote nezuko zanti zanta zanke kaude ke etedien Inuvik dani da si zonwala ke da si ajon laude kashe zon kogin deonde atla ame kane lodue tlatiko wa ko de antilata ejin shu ajon laude se kane ga zuta ke di wangeti. Era kote du beli lanit a ejitanti da je konta zanke hala ke da si ajon konti je zanke kako ke daga ke di. Era na hinshu kenta lilanita amigo he galageta si un cotegati masitena cote. Era cote nuve butlets and all the contega. Na kati je sitele je nezuko zantis and cote si eje nuvets and kesego lesoni atla eji da tissue danet e like it and cooking day. Dane zyko zantis and thousand kaude kontega. Era kate dula eji go naneshu na hika jan se kani mezongala zeta what's in dedi. Era kate na hinshu kajon klaude mezongala zeta onde. Atla eji kanita tezek eshu ikonet erzuligetida eji hulon hütlejon koginte unde atla goti kaneuta kwengo lasi kanewageti da kote eji nuve kwengo tsenide eji shuka eji date honots endi melot esonitsi dageti era nuve bullets ke gaude gontega era kadimasi tenagote eda Koti date kanete gin lani Dene Zhatıé sishu kajik of the mezokuinte unde. Raishi konane shutani da jon tlautene seko kelia siketida 2027 Q hearts ilanen da mezogala zutaketi da eji kusheko tason kakone Q giniti asonde. Nezuko zanti zanta zankaude kontega. Ena kati sila kaine thenti ka ejila ejitet on choza melon 2027 Q haisona gint egasonde. Ena kati ejiko nane shu 2032 kishe so kajon so ena gint egasone geti. Eda mofits and kaude kontega. Da kadimasi tenagote eda sila eji gonane shu kotas and kaude dami Kenneth and di eda eji clean chorich gonane shu eji la asil no kaneko hela geta kaneo dichon sabagini gojits and erani gala geta launt egeti eda eji kada satsume shink etzene jo sulai dat esi eji kaneo hitle cooking day La contas and others are contega. Da kadi eji gonane shu dia si county sick e almost shots any day eji sure jon clouda miss and de kanigala get da si she goes contega de. And I could mo fits like all the contega. Da kadi masi tena gote. Eda eji cleaning creds and eshu eji kane and Satsumeshi lesson lai si eji shua jo cloude I kanits e guane tonde kani ho eji becho konki kanits et a I lego zaki in dilegedi Eda kodeji gotlin dezak au dekeshu ajo je konta kwenteni la kwa tsele si je tsak eki kanita ne siniko keni olegeti. Eda sinji kau de kati sin shu ajo klau de sene izia o tene te kani ho. Edia si kau deni de ejin shu Ejila kala Canada ko Asian ko zo si kanita gala keta o kente. Atlante tishu Canadian danida se zongala geta si kanik eli lanida kyoke awagint eraji pecho kons shuaji kaniko tsene gozo etiasi kegai danide eji tleli kyans keshu kasi kani tlota gala geta da kyugini teonde erasi la kana the senezi koti pecho kongo keshu ko hegala dane tendi La koti kakotsi nani kontasa ya make all deke edition mehela tuta kandini de senezi so cloud de senezi menata kots eliageti. La koti jo mofits again de dajekea. La kati masi lilani se zonta kona de gente la koti kandini de eji koti koti satsomeching Ekhanin mechin kyoke nijo si eji e nat se is that soon lai lilani tsakageti on de daji wade. La kai konta tsaka de zokontega. La khati dia si khatse maza dane Canadian tanida si gala geta nahi la ko keli lani da kyotse honde atla khani satsome chintle ko wagi ani de eji tle a jo si ga tseta ko ze mechin ke tsene jo wa kha kone khani tle ko wagi a honde La khoti Ekushe kelike tani lilani da jin eti kanin kania jo laute niki diun da ejin shu kanit like etal katile kanita kanikus nithigeti. Da kode sa tu like gaude gondega. Masitena kote si eji kwets ek gondega didi. Daji jokotlin dets like all the kwe all the lisimets gondedi. La kati eji tutlita like eshu atla eji elot asiejo asitzo ko kwets e kwe hono wajo sinitzo vegeti jiwageti. La kati kwets like all the gondea. La kati eji Tulita goats and the lanita ajo kurts a season seas goats I got to legati. And I shall go nane shoe e quenti canits a wageti. And I ejilaje clearly que de sinji redele kurts a social thought that kukini at la heights on skesagelia. And I ji kurts entirely lanit aje catlo de jo cloute in Kernezi Nikogi that la kakone dagots on Nikogi the gate. And 2027 hike Elini RC Kishe goes on a key bed 2027 so a kiss on dazo jo cure goes on Gago gate that gate. That's a two second. Gaudish on there. Nakadi Masi Denago de Masajik out the Setsuko Dedi, and I she contact a she cashu Sokokeni the gate, goes on she mezo gala that was on the and I had a sick count any day. Eji gonane shu down ejila egala da kanine child da se uje tsanke da jo cloud kanine tsanke da go ne tentam diga sonindi and eji gotin de go keji kwen tsanke gaude gondea era kadeji du thale shu kakale si etiasi kaudeni de semet out de atla jeredele kwense eji kwen kania jo cloud go ke siga da so khat 오늘 고조 코타 고조 해갖고 게다게디 and 에디아시 카운티네 데슈 칸이 그메츠 켈리나리 다쇼 고와고 게네 테게디 에다디아시 카운티네 메가다 소 코타즈게 에가다 다소 칸 아가손디 at I she kwenko agedi. And I could age or no day is she saw two think out the tajekea. And I had a message on the neagote. And I see she catch on the anticipajo, which she got. Kutati siuteti eraji du thade shute so konya shukhatle khanizek eta megavne thogeti atleji ka kontli khanizek eshi megavne thoteti era khotiasi khaundeni de taseji konane shu khania so khaude gala tatsek eshu tase khanita mezeketa gala takhat aga soniketi atla eji ami khani intle khwekone chazwa Gate in sick honey goats and gageti. Quatsake out the contea, dark had a massive out the sentainty. A dark had it their sick out in the cold hearts and gashit a gala get dasi, as she send a got out the theas ago. And that's like kind of thenty, chocolate dego gazing shoe, as she like her. Echo tene hotueki khania sita ko wane thole laut elegeti eda eji shu seke on si dite so konya jake ni sho si kala tle kwen ko ko ne tense ji shu sene ji ko na ta se ko tselega so ko o eda eji shu si khani eta ko wane thoni tene so keti eji mezo oni la ne me khani kon tha ke kwen ja ko gi si si eji shu jo thaute sene ji ko he ko Elias Gondi, and I could Mackenzie Delta and get out the Gondega. And I had the Massit and I go there, and I had the Asia cold hearts and cake out the Tamil Kenneth and Asia do thales son seat from Canadits and get I limits only new ogeti at Lasia clavicle de lat and they take a wageti and I go none again go on the geti. And I had a quiche, I thought two quiche go the Jani should get go on a Ti kanishu jon tek ekuri lageti eta eji shukis enezi konezi legeti eji metson only lane de lat anane tlede ta homego thea kontega sonde era khudi counting de downti da eji kaude eji go head clave go head ta ko osi eji kita se zo se go ge lega downti ga sonigeti eta eji khotha ke kaude je kontega Era khadi masit ne agote era khadi na hishu khajo thaute eja ju ko kinte kha eji ketan ko tsona ko tsinte un teketi era khade dua eji khajo sitha kwa keta ga ko keti era eji tishunte kyo ke la keti da eji thaute jo thaute setsu legeti And I could go none shui lat ike ita contiene de eshin shu dikamo gots at de da esia son cloud de dikega ta want et masite na go de. And I could in Mackenzie Delta like out the gontega. La kate masite na go de masi jiket a go de se zone legende. And I had the Ejigo Nanishu clave contracts like Egypt and I get day yes, it's all continuing okay. And I could count in it there, a Miji, he contracts like all the Contega like a Tassi, Asia, Cloud, a sick honey's own Nesiaco legat son didi. And I could contact like all this Contega, and I had the Massit and I go there, and I had the contracts like as you cut in a sonnet a light like echo hega like it the wakente, or girl shoot a tianjira get the cani rida, Jesuko gente, the cock only article this sets on kite on a. Eda kai kidi kunti setso jase dia mikani sente au de jakin lisi e jikotso kuinte da tiso khajo sitha kwa ke ta soni ko keti era conditional data ko ke kega era jo Mackenzie Delta au de no te kontega na khadeji au de sit titi le ejitare dasi ejitlaude ajoasi khaneje tsonse ko ke le soni atla me ko me tezo sakiuchani de koneji gailet a ejitare da sonse tsonse ko ke le ga soni de masitene ko te tame era khuti khothasen kaude jokondega da khati masitene ko te era te missing take aude jaki lisi ete tiansi ake taga itakonte asia jotlaude son senezi e jamigo he egala ke tasi ji sonko zoko ke teketi ajon teke kwa ke tara taselat anane thlani demena tanezi go onke tiraji jon sitha kwa ke taga da khakone seko ke legeti Era onkashu ekishe khane light ake khane khane ko lwaki ani de elat ne thlani deje tetke te khani ga khakone elat ane thlaketi atlame ko sia ko te chaketi Eta je si khani ake taketi era khoti yellow knife north ake jo ko kaude kontega Ara khateji sahtutsa jokunti khakointe si shu khane si khontate zwa kone gala ke taung kyuntene tentida dikhane eni klekhente now de gala tatse kaude ti tami khene tenti Eda eji ko nane shuti tene kheli lani da jansi ko thakwa ke taga eji ke ta ko zoko ke te hunte Eda khati eji ko nane shui ami konte ke ti si naja ki chiko ke te khanyo ki ko lega taleti Eda sitile eji au de si a jo tlaute I intle khane khake da ko tsa jo ko ta ke ti soni Eda khuti ji eni tle khwe te na de gala tatse ke au de kontega Eda khati masit ne ko te eda sin shu kha jo tlaute ete gala tatse ke khelina de meta tsa ti hunde ke ti eda sin la khane thenti na hishu kha eji ko nane me ko te ke ti tsa ke shu ko zo ki te lante eda sin nieli lani da sene zu tantira jo tlaute sene zu te ko zo ni zi aga sonti atlati ami khani ji egala ta I tenau de Tanitsa ke kaude di site tia je lega era yellow knife north kaude kontega eta sin like khane thenti khotia si county ni de sene zumena tase ko tse lega sonte era khoti Duke Aurora College ke shu I sene zia ko tsu legeti khoti county ni de tia me khane konte ke ti si e jitene now the Egala tate no de kanite kwense ke gaude lisi je eta konti je so ke lega sonti na khati masite ne agote era khudi ko nane shu me konte ke ti tse ke shu ete ti taunti da gala ke tala ete je shi ko so ke inse khani ke ga ta khani ga ra jo si se ko ke iunte eta je Aurora College ko ke ti si ke talin ko one tantse ke kwen ko onsi e je la khate ne sanet e je ke ti wakinte te tinda kha fatia se tsongola kinta wakinte ke ti Ida te tin shutani ta shi ko de asitso khani ko wa ko ke ne tens e ke jena ta se ko kin laut da te tin so ko ko ke te ke ti Ida khati shi eri klekhen de no de gala ta tsenge ka de kontega kointe eta jo yellow knife north kon kaude kontega eta khatia me ko hala keta khotu eshi ko heta ku chasi jo khako kinta ninte ta se eshi ko nane me khane konte ke ti tsa ke eshi ko zo kontia ke intaunti ga suni ke ti masitene kote era ti klekwente na de gala ta tsa ke kaude kontega eta khati masitene kote eta na hi shu kha jo khauti menata seko tsin lande khotiu asa kyujani de khatile kanshu ejinjewo ke tagat akanshu lekuli gozana ke leunte ena khoti jita ke tisi atlami khane ko hegala ke tasi ami ko na the khane gala ke tasi ji gozoko ke teunte khoti khandini tane ta jo thaute je zon seko ke lakisi ehti se zon le atiunte leti atlasi khandini de ji ami khane ko na the ji Burwats Ekala get that K, she saw she clash okay, Gotoke Lea, Gotoje, Aji, Lekotwa, disease, Ajon so, Ajon cloud, give it the Kaniga, the Kakone, Jonata Seko, Legas go on. Era tissue, she cloudation and Gonata Lassi, at la Gotlin, there she can eat the Sina Hishukashi go, Nanishu Hegalats at the once in the day. Era could it to the well a dead and cake out the Gontega. Era Kadi Tenago Desi, a yet as a hono lilanit a Jasigo Kintegeti, at la Eji, Gonaneshu, Albertas and Getago in Esi, Kanugo Kinte. Era atlashi sampanasha tsenke hytlem kukinte edaji tasejik au de siajon cloude senezi ami kutlinte ku keji ko hegala ke tasi atla sampanasha tsenke ko zokonte gati ta khoti ko na thek au de konte ga ta khati masite ne ko te era khoti Internet sats and Gassi Metzola in town data. Asi county a mekane anyake le amigala get dami sabanage and get out the jacking lisi ejiko heli laniti tacos a sigo zoconteti eda kagoi sinti na hishudita gotlin dead and go eji asi deja the londe gozo na hishudute at any desene zoom cotas and denek out deke go hegala tago sinti edate ju Canada goes and gotlin dead and go de go heli lande galageta rako tin deke go dinaja tiko tat in the sound kanita ikozogo teti Eda kanik elilani da duten dets and gajon cloude gonata segots eligazogo on the masitena go there. And I turn a day well a dets and all the gontega, and I cut a masitena go there. Eda khati eshiko nane shu khania shoko that isi eda sila jutami kenete khoti county ni de taunida eje arts and care so cloud the lasia jona hi sabana shasi mekya go ti soniketi et like he eshiko nane shu ami khani ko nane ka de wale sileti eda khoti jet gonna take what the ne go desi Eda khoti down eda khati eshu ko nane joji un kako desi eji jia jon khade jon tene konta desindi eda o kashu eji na jai tiswa dini de konta tsake tene ka o de keji ko hea dindi eda khanik eli lane kyoze ani de eji mega ne konta tsene na de ko waketa da kha jone ju tle hea la geta no kini thinga suni di da tune de wala de tsaka de kontea Eda khati masitena kote enti sali laneda eje thaute ason thaute najaki chiguketi Eda eje shukakakinti sene juntene kontaketi asgo Eda khoti eje premier jik alden disi atlaji aji thaute is sabanasha goze Alberta goze keshu eje tutse keshu hitle hukukinti Eda eje Manitoba keshu hitle hukukinti keti atlatite gotlinte kukeji eje hitle hukukinti kuketi Eda khati masitena kote eda khati sinshu kai Premier Smith mitzoko inte on the Prime Minister's like issue gozo Indigenous Affair Alberta like entita zengo zoko inte di eda kakagoi sinti Alberta de dindute gutlinte sijo Tuten gutlin dets and the neck out deke gozoko get das go on get di eda ji two goes and made sits like essay hitlation go get there's go on and I could count any day sene is you tuten gutlin de si jitako disi selesi go da get there's go on and I could eji dechots and out the gontega and I khati masitena go there Eda kuti sila ejo nesu kotsenti and dots like all them make you senethendi. Eda khati nesu kotsenti and let's like atlatiami kanite zoke dits like a siege or they say kuti down to that on cloud konata seko ke insoniketi. Eda kuti nesu kotsenti and dots like all there's a contega. Eda khati masitena go there. Eda kudi ko nane shua mi te zwa ke uti ko zwa mi khani te tseng kao te ke tseng ke gala ke tasi e ji shu kha shon tlau te ko na ta sa chwa si khon khana di ke ko ko di ni tseni da hon te ke ti eda Asian shu ko heta ki uchani de eda Asian shu kha shon me na ta se ko tsin lau ke ti ko tsai ko nane shua mi ko he gala ke tasi shi ko tsai ki unti ke ni de I si kha shon ko na ta se ko tsin lau te ke ti ma si te na ko te Eda kudi te choze kao de kon te ga. Eda kadi masi te ne ko te. Eda kudi e das e ji kao de kudi u e ji tanti da ko ti si e ji ne sia ko ti le da on ke shu tani da jon khao de se ne zi ko na ta se ko ke lia so ne ami khani de za ke u ti khani chen kya ke ti. Eda kade masite na kote eda kade duli lane da jon khaute se ke ga ta wa ke te ke ti eda e jamais konte ka de jakin lisi ete tien se khane ta kwa ke ta ko ke ti atla dia je khane intle ho lisi e ji te so ke si e jin shu se ne zu ko heta ko ni si se ne zu ke we ta ke ti kaunte ne de e jin shu ko nane shu se ti ajon cloud e ji ajon asi so wa ke ta ko ke ti county ne de a me khane sene zi ko tsau ti ke ni de si e ji shu ajon se tse ke se ko ke le ke ti masitene ko te eda khodi jo no te cho tse ke ta je ke ga masitene ko te na khati sitele ji ka de sene zu a mi khane te zo ke uti ko na te ko gala ke ta si ko he gala ke ta so ni khoti khaute ni te ta ni ta sene zu te zo ko he gala ke ta ta ti ga so ni ti ta era khot ne zu ko chen ti chen ta chen ka de zo on te ga da khati masitene ko te era se mi na sente ka de ja ke ni si kha jo khaute si ga kin ta on te a mi shu se he gala ke ta si kha ko zo ko kin te on te era eta za me de zo jo khaute si se ko ke le ke ti da si shu se ga ko chen ko na ne sha mi khani te zo ke uti ko chen ke se ko ke le ke ti era te ti shu ko he ta ko ti ni de kha jo zo kha te le jo na zo ko ke te on te era tia jia jo si ga ta ne sen la e jia mi khani ko na the te so ke ti si a si u ki ti si te tia ji ta ke ti khani ko chen ke ko ti un te ti era kho ti e ti cho frame le chen ka de kon te ga era khati ma se te ne ko te era si la e ji Any client now they are like that's and got it. You can attend the Rashi do Thalish, see who Kaku in Taketi, at least she samples and get it in the Tasejik out the cloud Dejin Cleque, Seke Sampatane de Kozoke is Siji Gerai, Tatantiga Sony, the Masitenegote, and it client now they got like that's and out the Contega, that had a Masitenegote, and that had a Jota, sick out the Lessy, Aji Sampatane de Cleque. So not a lessy, she cloud the cameras in town the day. And I had a she do thale shoe, see a joan, he shoe, at la jin lake, some patane de jets on again, they see a gila, tanita jon cloud and lake. One na go le go a metane te jineshi go hegala keta go zo tamti ta e ticho samba ginli tse ke ju kha jo ke go tse ke go tsin na de de era frame le tse ka de je zo de ga la khati masit ne go te la khati masi lilani ta dia me khane ke khre tse ke ti se jo sta de je na ta se go gin la ke ti era e ja me go hegala ke ta shu go na ta se go gin la de era khati ta se hu e ji sampatane te khre ke ni ge ta si se a jo kha te ne ju ke ga ta son ne era khudi khauntin ta ne ta se ke un jana ta se ko ke le ga son di da e ti khre de na de ga la ta chen ke ka de kon te ga era khati te ga la te se khati le jo kha de se ko tse le son ne ke ti era khat a tse ke shu me khani khre tse ga la ki te ke ko he son se ko tse le ke ti era ke she ko tha sa kha ko ne se a jo si me ta je ta kha ke che ko ke ti Era o ke she kotlin te ko ke shin te so ke sa ke so I go ne tot ele go te go tin so gala ta ke ta ke te ni de ko shu go wa go ne ta da e shin shu shi a jo si khani ga ke ta ga so go o Ena koti county ni de se ne zu go he ne zu ala tse ta go zo down de da se a jon hlau de mena ta se go tse lia zo go song di ge di la county ni de di jon sa ba na le tse ge jon he tse de ni de jin shu a jon hlau de mena ta sa ba ni tse da zo go un di Ena koti frame le tse ga de jon Ode kontega era khati eji konane shu joji tami khesi khaje zo khako intaunte era khati ta segu ji kaude sideleji mi tlekhrens ke tisi eji go hete ta jon si sego ke lesoni ke ti era khoti edi tlekhrent na ode gala ta tse kaude je go kontega da khati masi tene go te era si lash khau ke shu go heti taunte di era ji khani ke Gilia in la eji du hatet on choza ke sam patani ta jon laute khani me tsoni tseni dati and eji khani le khwe te zone si go on de talete khani tene le go he ga la ke ta khani tse ke shwe laute me tso ko tsin te on te ke ti and na hin shu kha jon laute go ho tse te ko tso ko tsin te on te ke ti and eji go nane shu je le kha to si ji kha jon laute mo tsin ta on te ke ti and sin shu ken ta lin la ni da se ne zu go he e ga la ta ti masi Era kudija grace let's like all the gontega. Era kati masi tena gote. Era kati dene zuko tsanti tsanta tsanke. Eji wane sindi Era koti di sa tson silon kenan di tsanke jo kuin kleje zon la tage da ke di la na di kyu jo zo tse di di da ni da jo si khani ke ga ta so ni ke di Era koti ne zuko tsanti tsanta tsanke ka de ko gontega Era eji ko na ne shu di me ga tse ta si a jo khau de me na ta se ko tse I un de eji ko na ne shu me khani she zo ke di tsanke si eji ke ga ta un de atla go heta gon disint like ni kin tleta asia si khat ti te tiet ne ko nane ke ga ta on te ke ti eda asia shu a jon thot e sa chon si khon khana di chon kha tha ke da on te eda khudi asia ko nane shu e ti si county si e te ti tane ta jon si le chon kha tha ke da si e ki so jon thot ke ga ta ga ke ti Atla ishitare thatson shi khania si the latswa keti. Era kodi grace that's like all there's a contiga da khati masitene gote. Era khati ta se shi all the city litia sits o conte soniketi. Atla shi konane Konta kyönteni latene sanet e nake desi tantida jon laude seje zon sego ke lega sonigeti atla dia sa sonet a lekun digo zonia ke leda di sa son silon kenan di khani gilion te da je khani wageti Eda khati eji konane je me thathe la eji asia jon laude gutlin te ko eji gotinati ke jon wala ke ta ko de konta tene sanet e nake desi eji khania jon laute iko egala tak e sia jon laute si khani setsu legeti Eda Asian shu asi here go tinant eda Asian shu jon laute maison setsu legeti da masitene agote na khoti no de jon grace days like all the taje kea Eda khati masitene agote Eda Da se eji kaude eji jetso konte soni edi khani eji satson silon kanadi tse nigeni dani de eji inkleshu nats di hunde dare dazo khani ke wage ia soni di Ya khati masitene agote era khati ko nane sa chon silon khana di tse ko khani ko itle ko tso tha tha ge da on te ko zo eji ko nane shu khame tso samba na tse di on te da ji ko te ga la ke ta ke se te ti so na ke ti son de
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the things the Department of Health and Social Services has implemented with respect to social workers when they leave the position, their exit interviews, I'd like to ask the Minister, what are the top 3 reasons identified in exit data for child protection workers and social workers, frontline social workers, and how many of those reasons relate directly to high caseloads? Thank you.
From Range Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do not have that information here today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to confirm, does that data exist, Mr. Speaker?
Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe there's a process through offering exit interviews to all employees that resign from health and social, or from the GNWT, and THSSA is within public service, so they would be offered an exit interview. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, is it being used in these improvements the department's working on? Because, again, we've had questions about, are you listening to the concerns of frontline workers? So the question today is, if you have the data, if it does exist, how are you using it to improve the quality of life for those workers so we can fill those vacancies, keep kids safe, and support families in the Northwest Territories? Thank you.
Member from Range Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, the data is that we do obtain is used in order to make to look at the changes that, and right now where they're currently doing the review and they're providing the different supports and putting those in place. They're also, with the training, they're also looking at, and from the high caseloads, they're looking, like I said before, they're looking at the use of the other employees within the system. So we have family preservation workers, we have cultural workers, and if there's ways to decrease the amount of work that's on the child protection worker that's not actually connected to their statutory duty that they could pass on to some of the other staff, we're utilizing those recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to try a different subject, which would be news to some folks over there. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister of Housing if she could give this House an update on the Tony Whitford building that's being constructed on the 50th Street downtown. There's a lot of buzz in the community about the new Whitford building, and they're pretty excited to see it almost at 6 floors, and things are shaping into a wonderful home for many families we look forward to. So can the Minister start off by giving us a construction and timeline update on the Whitford building? Thank you.
From Yellowknife Centre, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, just to clarify, it's not the Whitford building yet. Yes. We do have to respect the Honors Advisory Committee process, and that's through the Speaker's office, so let's respect that. In terms of the building itself, I mean, the 6th floor with the mass timber walls, that's being built today. We're hoping to have a topping off ceremony probably the last week in June. The building will be entirely enclosed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That may be technically a fact. It hasn't been named that yet, but the community is starting to recognize it as the Whitford building, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the next question, which I was hoping we'd get to, and I don't know if she's just giving me airtime, I thought she was going to jump to it, which is when do we anticipate this building to be ready for occupancy? At one time they were talking 2026, and I heard from people internally in the system saying, stop saying that, because now it's into 27. So, Mr. Speaker, can the Minister give this House an update when they think the building will be ready for occupancy and when they think they'll be able to get people actually in there? Thank you. That's
Member from Yellowknife Centre, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Mr. Speaker, I was giving myself airtime. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is the early 2027. That's the expectation. I don't have an exact date, but early 2027 was the reassurance from Housing and NWT. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The next question I've raised repeatedly with the Minister, and she's already nodding even though she hasn't heard the question. The last bit and phase of this particular initiative of the Whitford building has come up in different phases, but they seem to keep forgetting the local MLA and all Yellowknife MLAs on the Whitford building. I'm just wondering if the minister would encourage the department and anyone else to invite not only me as the MLA where it's built, my colleagues throughout the House, and lastly, Mr. Speaker, most importantly, the Yellowknife Housing Authority, because they will eventually be deemed as the administrators of the building, and they are our key partner to make this a success. Thank you.
Minister responsible for housing and NWT.
Speaker, agreed, and absolutely, there will be an invite. Thank you.
Responsible for housing and NWT. Oral questions. Member from Tuna Day Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome the minister back into the chamber.
Spoken twice about this. Let's focus on what the questions are. Thank you. Remark. Thank you.
I'd like to say that residential school lives in the tribal welfare system today. So given that Indigenous people are haunted by the specter of residential school and child family services, no different, does the minister accept that she's running a colonial system of child apprehension, reinforcing harmful legacy of residential school, and further traumatizing our people under her policies? Thank you.
Member from Tuna Day Willity. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Health and Social Services, I do lead the Department of Health and Social Services. This department has been structured and every one of us that sit in this house ran to sit in this house to be able to guide the policies and the procedures and change this legislation. And as Minister of Health and Social Services, I am here to be able to do the work that needs to be done to make the changes in this system. That yes, we have history and a legacy of residential schools. Then we had the 60 scoop, and then we talk about this in child and family services is where this is happening. But since under my leadership, the direction that I've given the staff is to be able to support more families at home, in their homes, which we've seen an increase in families being supported in their home and a decrease in children being taken under child protection issues. So as the minister, I will be bringing forward legislation later on in this government, and that is the important work that I am doing to make sure that this system doesn't continue the way it has for many, many years that was set up not by me, but I'm here to do the work to make that change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Tuna Day Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the CFS reforms to decolonize the system was to implement legal mandated cultural safety plans. Yet 2/3 of Indigenous children, or 91%, are in care of lack of these plans. That's unacceptable. My question to the minister is, what has the minister not prioritized these cultural safety plans and other measures to root out systematic racism in the social services system? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Tuna Day Willity. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as of now, there is training that is being done with all of our new staff. They're restructuring to make sure that every new staff onboarding is getting this training, that they know that these are requirements, that they need to do this. Within the new, moving forward within the legislation, I think that the new legislation, and I can't speak to the details in it, but it is to respect Bill C-92. And with that, it is to work collaboratively with Indigenous governments. So that is the work that I'm doing to make sure that these things are getting done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Tuna Day Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My people are constantly re-victimized by the colonial social services system. It must be dismantled and authority handed back to the Indigenous government. Will the minister commit to a clear timeline and a plan to do so with the Indigenous government to address this issue? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Tuna Day Willity. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do not disagree with the member. I believe that the Indigenous governments do play a role in this, and we most recently signed one agreement. We've reached out to all Indigenous governments. I have had my staff reach out to Indigenous governments to, to be able to do this work. We'll work with them. We'll support them through transitioning whatever the areas that they want. It was a trilateral agreement, the agreement that we signed with the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation. They did receive a large sum of money to be able to provide services for their Indigenous children. And so if there are Indigenous groups out there that want to do this, our department is sitting here waiting, willing to go and do that work with them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure, I believe, but you could direct it. Has there been any interest in or consultation to work with Decho communities to develop the needed human resources for the newly major projects, namely training, to begin training? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, member from Decho.
Repeat. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a question that involves more than just strategic infrastructure, but also human resources, EC&E, so understand it does touch on a number of our departments. And short answer, Mr. Speaker, there's much work to do. There's going to be a lot of need for trained folks to undertake these projects over the next short while, and particularly in the Decho region. So that will be the entry point for certainly the Mackenzie Valley Corridor, and we'll certainly be needing, as I say, all hands on deck. Work right now in terms of developing a workforce strategy and community readiness is accelerating. In the past, that would often be something that gets done only right before construction. That's not how we're going to do this project. There won't be time to deliver the project. So we are developing an intense plan for the workforce readiness preparedness that is in development right now, in draft already, and looking to get out to the Decho over the summer to have a final engagement on whether that will work with those communities, and then to start to implement the plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain. Member from Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for that. Very exciting times are going to be coming. When does the department anticipate any training to begin? Thank you.
Thank you, member from the Decho. Minister responsible strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, step one is to make sure we have a plan. So obviously, certainly if folks have the opportunity to do upgrading, complete high school, look and get trades, I expect there will be no shortage of need for trades, for drivers, for all manner of road construction crews. That said, Mr. Speaker, more detailed analysis of it, that is what's going to give us the tools to say which communities at which time. And that work, as I said, we have a draft engagement plan right now, and then with that we can do the heavy lifting of a workforce development. But that is top of mind for myself, for other ministers, for the Major Projects Office. So once we have a more settled plan, I would think that then it begins in earnest to ensure that we deliver on the training. Thank you.
Responsible strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain. Member from the Decho. Final supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for that. We look forward to the work that needs to happen, or the capacity building that needs to be built in the community. What communities have been contacted in the Decho region? Thank you.
Member from the Decho. Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know there's an expectation to be in the Decho region over the summer. I don't know which communities on which dates, so I'll certainly commit to get that plan to the members so that we can help publicize when the team is in the region. But also, Mr. Speaker, I also want to be organized about that. There's been consultation on this project over the course of much time, and it's important that we now not wear out communities, not wear out folks, but that they understand when we're coming this time, it's because it's an expectation that this project is moving, it's moving quickly, and we want all hands on deck. So again, I'll commit to get that to the House as well as to the members so that everyone can participate. Thank you.
Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain. Colleagues.
Rakadishuta koke keka kanet ezodi rakot ejiajonshi tatlesi kewetara kotsishketani takin tlesi kewetara kotsishikonani shimekaite deji hukot kete si shikani mekoti kotsishikonani sikegaitara Rako inklena tsetsank ekokentega Kozo amigo kinte kanitsank ekokentega Kozo inklena tsetsank ekokentega Rako dichi I kontatsank ade kontega Rakade masi joasion kililani ukuntenethendi Ejikonane si lautsank inklena tsetsin lalo kozo Ejikonane shu ajon inklena tsetsank ekonti Osion kiukontenethendi Rakode Mr. Premier Jake Algonate Mokentega. Rakade Sila Dinkley on Kilarium Tenethendi, Arjon Denets and Asian Clenat Sek Nikita Tenethendi. Godzanti Gaudesi, she contazon contenethendi, and I assume Q contenethendi, Eshikonane Shu, Arjon Cloud E 2024-2025 like a megas attacketi, Econane Shuji Hasat 2025 Godzantet Onchos at Tono de 2026, Ukilat Ono, Silano la Mel Sampa, Inigini the Wanti, and I could yell 9 North and other Gontega. La kadema si jotena kote si edition si kleo kuntenethendi atla ejikonane shu kontsenk eagedi kontsen ejikonane eji asi kleli danida jon klauden klekane geo dagedi kontsen ejikonane shu din klenatsun kilinane no tle inkle eji könsenke kakin ojuadi Yellowknife centers and other kontega La kademasi de agote se ejikonane shu dasyon kyukutenethendi Ena kade ejikonane shu ejilatani da edicho ajon klaude sene zu nezu kuzenti tsanke kaniwageti Eda ejikonane shu dasyon ki eji Edmonton tsanke ejikonti kanikaki onwageti Masi La kodeje konane shu dejo satsega etinaja mi khatake tisi jone zigo tsake goja sinats in ega di masi
Colleagues, motions.
Races are got the good there. Must sit in a good there. And I could go none shoot each a gotlin there go agency, Asia, Cloud Senes, you could like it, yeah, not usual. But I should go none shoot their mick honey gotlin there go Asian, not take your sons like a gala get Darcy, a Canadian go a canny, like a Lilani gala get la gotlin days like out there, K, a dating shoot at la dischon see gotlin days, as a canny like a gala get up. Kota ko tio ko tlinte ko keji a me na ti kyo jo tsa ke gala ki te ke era o kya shu kha kha ki intira ne zo ko tine la te le ke te ko tsa ko te ko na ne sha me khane ja indi tene ja indi tsa ke gala ki te ke te tinga jo thau te se ne si tso la ke ta ga ko o Kota konane shuti nezu kozentit and keje ase ejin shumega linane se kontat nezu kotsake diaz go o kota konane shu kontat ke ta kondene kishik and ke sigas go o that meton only a yellow knife north and ke linane da cho sambanet and ke da dit se ke tinkanatse and ya me kanina tik ojon ke gala ki de ke go zo ejat in deni de ko kauke que j'ai tenté là c'est les jours à jour khani les jours que dit et à que khani j'ai la que ta sonné quand ta lilani ta dia me khani et j'ai déjà dit que la que te tenté là c'est les jours contrat que c'est les jours que la que ta go la continue les jours que il ko que ta Ça coûte qu'un lilani ta j'ai provincial que Kanisi te tia jo tlaute senezu. Tanita gala geta das ne se kyuki shwasko on. Kota mega lina de senezu tanita naiti tsanketa ko tsaketia. Kenta lina kutin de tsankao de si te tia jo tlaketa shitsona kotega. Atla shi tandira kenta lina su ko tsanti tsanta tsake at gala geta. Na kodi kenta lina kotlin de tsankao de ke si tlena se tlena ono kyuno tsen so je tsoketa ko ketega. Masitana kote. Da shi me tsoi ke tsetsi ta ke di research ka de da khadema sita ko de da khadija thatiet ke chosi me ga tsin ta te ke di atla e je konane shami khani e ja tsin liene de kidi e ja li me chi ko khatla ko tso jimi ko hela ke ta khani wa ke di Kota shi konane shu kajon tlautane si ko tsen da tsekeji kaude tsoku ginte unde ana kote tia se kaudene de shi kana se shu tlautame na tani tsin aga tso o ana kote dua shi konane shu je kyujin de gilia si khani tsegala geta wa ginte Era na hishu khani nezu ko tsenti tsenta tsenge anikeni da si khani ke lila de gala ke ta wa kente da khuti countini de du ajina na ta te osi me tsoni ala tseta wa tsente countini de ami khani ko he kha ko ti si khatule a jo thaude I ka de ko te ke ti tsenge hitle je tsenge na ta ke the countini de ta hwa si kilia ko te ga sonti Ana koteji tena tseshu khanik elilani ta kyuts ni figeti atla ko nane jimetsa keshu go tsoko tsu teketi eda eshu ko nane je dicho a me dicho khotsa ke gala gite ko na thek au de le khani tsa keshu ko zo a me shu khani tene jaile ni de me chin ko khotlesi ejin shu khani je tsa keshu gala gite keshu wa geti Era na hinshuka ajo kani na hijo konde gala zeta konde zeti zenke shuka hytle si kani dene kani na zoko kinte un tegeti atla kya shuki sene isu go only laut elegeti atla gotlinte go keji kani dene ejai le ni deke kiti shiga natoke sele laut ele da je met zo only lani da je detsenk al deke sene isu jo laut je na da segulegeti da kotiu Ki jitlana se in da get se siki jek eli lanit I ke alego geti da sila khane the e jishu si khane ni de khatule me tsone se go tsele sone ratene a go de si je me gali lane me khane ko na the gala geta si e jishu se ne je ko na the se go tsule geti counteni de se ne je jo khaute de ne go tse ke go o geti Era je kontatene tanete na gete si e je shusene zi guidiga zago o era je gotlin tezek au deke sene zi o jo taute gonata se go ke lega zago o Kontatene tanete na gete shu atla konja ke tsilya jago lasi je shu taute nezi go he a go tilaut elana jusene go he se go tselega go o eda kota se counting de e she go nane shuti a me khane dene jailien de me chingo kontlesi je dene go gal nati ke ushon se ke go gal get tasi je khadi wa geti Eda kote counting de e she sene je jo kalde mena ta se go tselias go o go zo jo dene khane go na ta se go tselias go o era na shi ju du ten te si a jo khane da ni tsa ke da gala ke da wangente a me kon ta shu ko go e kon tsa ke gala ke de ke e je shu kinte go zo jo sa pa ke li shu jo kalde me khane go gala ke ta si e je shu khane ke ga down de e da e je shu ka hytle jo ka ko ke down de da kote counting de a me go tsa ke a go tin son de e da since you khane thenti eti a me khane ko ke gala ke ta si je kha kontena the what eti era tia si counting de se me zo only lani da se ne je so saute se go tsele ga go atla ji kontra tse ke a tse dia jo kotlin de go ke ji a tse ti era kha go nane shuki e te ti shu kha kha ginti e jami kho ke gala ki te ke hitle te tsen ke ko ginte onte e da ti asi counte ni de ne khane me ga tue ke na ko tse insi shi khane se met au de amonte e da ti me khane e ja tsin li khane me chin ko khuntle ko zo me ko ke gala tasi e te tia senezu Iko ke da hytle ti tlena tsentani tsini onde ke ti Era khade je shwe da ke tseni dene zundi ko zo jo je ke da khako ke dene zundi khani wale sindi khani ne de ji kao de ja ke ne me ko de ke ti ke de tin so jo thau ti ke ga da ko de ke ti so je ke se ko ke lias go o Era khati sinyeli lani da tia jon thaude semena ta se ko tselia go o Era khoti ko nane shweni de khatene sanete ji shwe thaude ko thage ti unt Era khoti je a je gala ke ta si ji shu khatu du te ko tinte khani me tse ke se ko tselia de Era jo yellow knife north ke shu ka de hytle jo khakoin da unt Era e je shu de dia jo thaude sene ji ko na ta se tsule ke ti da se masi lilani da je masi ko ru sene thedi a me khane ko te khane ke ti tse ke de sindi Era se la khane thedi cho sabana le tse ke jo I tlana tsenta ke tseni de ne jo di masi de ne ko te Yellow knife north ke others is going to Era khate masi de ne ko te Era since you can't let out se khani mente na se want eti Ena kati eji konane shu eji ami kani ukeshu egala takuat akani wane sindi. Eda eji shu kahitle kani mokotso ante unte keti. Eda sila kane senti hishu kotiu. Eji kontatsa ke ami kani naiti kwantitsa ke kontaja eti unte kotso eti kani ami ikukili konatatsu liketi. Ena kuti eji ameta ami kontaja ke nisi sanezi kokeuti kani waketi. Kotso eji ami nati keujo nati ko kwa kenti kotso konane shi ko hegala keta ami kani ejali mechi ko kontle kotso sheke gala keta ke ete shu kani ejo ko watseti atetso gala keta ni de senezi ikani tseketa ko one teunte Era tiasi county ni de aji tsongala keta si je tseke senezi kyukidin shu kani gara keti unte Era kotiasi county ni de eji se megali lani dati ami kani ejali mechi kegala ki de ke de dia senezi ke unguone tengas go on koti ungu nani shu tene ungu di kaki oni de eji shu senezi jo sita kwa ke tagas go on eji la me jali go zo ya me kani mechi kenti kani tseke shu ke ga tagas go on Ena koti dia mi mechi kani jali mechi ke kenti ko zo ko nani shune zia ke ine de katule isatso mechi ke zene jo le ko chani ki a Kaunen dia jon teke senezi ke ga tas go on ko zo on ke shune zia ko tinleni de jia mi ko la ke tasi ji ko zo ko ti khatha ke za wa ke te Eda on ke shu kaunti de tasi ji ko nane senezi etia ko tingale taundi on ke shu ka ko teni de ke hitle ko ke te wa ke te da ji shu jon si khane ke ga ta on te Eda ko te si ko nane shu kaunti de eji konani uji ko hitle haji tani da gala ki tasi ko zonjo ko konti khatake de unte ida eji shu si khani tse ka da senezi te u ke ti wa ke te Ena kadi du thale jon reach de zon ka de jon si u ka kointa eja mi khani ko te ke ti tse ke si Ida te dia jo thaute I ko heli lani te gala ki tawa ki te ke ti Eda kati ko nane shu khani ko tsoki tlesi khatula jo thaute ko ta ke ti unte Eda ishi ko nane shu ami khani ejali mechi khani kyo kini jo si I khani tene ko kha agate any day ishi khani tsek eshu jo thaute I aji wa ke tisi senezi khani ete dia ajo ko ke go was go on County any day eji kaude ami khani unta khani kyushi kyutekuli khani ta gala getta si senezi ko tsoko gette ga go o Erata se county ni de ami du tente tsake khani sa chome chi kyo keni jo ta se me chi tle khani ko tso tam ti soni Era khadi ju du thale ju kaude jo khako inta onde Era ja mi khani kaude konte ke ti tsake gala ki te ke te ti ti khatse le ko ke ti Era tia mi khani da tsake ke li kaude se khani ke ga ta ga so go o Era tia si county ni de eji ta ho eji ko nane ami khani ko gala ke ta ho eji ko ke ko untam ti ga soni Eda eji kaude kai le jo khako inta onde O cashu khani tlemeratse dani de a jointlete na tasetse iun de gete. Da khati si shu khajon thaute simeta gwain down de gete ko nane shunta de kulit ke shutane da gala geta la eji dedi on cashu ami khani ko gala geta ni de ededi ajik egala geta ki ko nane shu I khanik e aget yaso go oko gete. Eda se martani de o cashu dia si county sene zimo go tsete gas go o eji kit due mirats in diot ele. Eda dia dua jina na ta helni da dimo go tsete gas go o de. Kani ho du sene zimo go tsete gas go o. Eda county de is in that sank out de ke ete din second dali lanita is county asi atla je kontra tande da I go eke dit eke sene ju ke right da gas go o. Eda se like kind of thing dia se kan ne ju ke right da go o. Koso damage at the gas go o ga le ke de da dia si tleshu ji au de du thalaju kakointa. Eda khutiu tene tle ko tsek e khani kakointa ni de ta ko ke le ga so ni. Eda khage ti khutiu ko nane shu as ji ami khani ko he gala geta mi me egala ta me wont onsi e jin shu asi khani ko ke deni de e ji ami khani gala ta me wont onsi e te din so mek e ko o ko tsa jo si tsek eda ko thakwa ta go It does like kind of thing na hishu dia me khane gala ta me wont onsi e ja jo me la kasi te la und e era dia si ni de sene je si make e go tinau te da a si county ni de ji se ne ju e ji go dias go o era e ji me so only na se si menten na te di masi te na go te Hair results and cake all the gontega. La kati masi tena gote. Era kati sin shu. E dicho si kani lu gyutene thendi. Era kati masi lilanik all the huklejo kakuinta wonte. Era kote dia simiras et dani de. At la dicho. Itene lo due si kani kukinte wonte. So due khani ejale mechi khani editinga I tene go konke se khagete Era khati sinshu ejimera tani de eji kisenezia got in the land eleti Atla eji konana se counting de on cashu konta senezu tene kwa kyoke awagint it Sishu ka khani ede kuno simlai highly lanit eji khani tsank era segal ne thon de khani ho inde tane te hasi khatlote I khani tsank eta ko hega laita de era sishu ka ajon thaute khani tsank eta segal ne thon de era jila ki ko tsank di tsank ele ko thats et de And I could dish go none clay highly lani canico tots at any day. At la canico tots at any day, as you may chink at an ejots like in clay go walking a goats Kage denny that the honky go tot in Ilesunidi. And I decani then as I may chink canic, you can goes on Kaniko hegal teneko egala getagal kaniko hegate isi era nahishu ko nale khatene thotye ko hegala geta wangite elat ak issue kani issue khatene kaniko egala eta unde e da shi la kai te sare da khale ju ko ke te o de e da shi shu ka a jo thau te khani jetse a ko ke la ke te atla ko nane te si khau dine de khatula jo thau te me da e gala tse ta suni ke te a jo Canada ko ke ko dinati ke jo gala ke ta ke khan kha khani ki lion te na ko di ko tha tse ke ami ko tsa intile tse ke khani ko tha ke ti ko tse je ko tha tse ke shu jo thau te I khani ta sa ke ko te gani de ko atla ko he ne zu te tsale dile khani te khatlu se ko tse le suni ke ti da je pe cho khon shu kha ko ke la te te shu khani a jo ne zu ko tsen ti tsen ta tsen ke ko ga la ke ta un te atla ta un te ta ga la ke ta si jo kha di khani e di te la je ke ga la ke ta wa ke te ke ti na khuti khauntini tani ta jon khauten metsekene ko tega sonde la khati si shu hutle monani thedi tla ko heta ko tega sonde la khati shi du thali lila ni ta hutle mo khako inta onte atla ji shu ko hega tsetani de satsume shi ketsene jo itle shi ko aki a ko tsa ko nane shu si ta ko tsa ke tion ta okay shu tani ta jon khaute se ko tsele ga soni ke ti la khade du thali la khai sin jo sabageli khati shit au gere ti soni khanyo khwedeni la jitane sanete konthana kete ta se jit au ge ti ataundi ga sonde era na hi shu diu khani kontha tsa ke mi ko tsa ke dile te ko tsa kyu ti ke ti e je khatlo de shu khatene sanete khani ko hegala ke ta wa ke te Era shi tamti da si khani tso wala ke ta khani wa ke ti unte era khote shi konna ne shu kya kha jon khite ne si unte ko zo khatule je tso la ne gala ke ta wa ke te ke ti na khati era khati eti chonshu sene si se ko tsule ke ti atla ko ti kontha tene khani ko ke te eti chula khatu no unti la mil khani tene khanete son jo kutlin te ko ke jina ke te honte Ada shi la ta te tare da si khani ko thai tin si ko zo tene lo tu khani jo hutle je che ke kha ko ke down te te ki e ti chu si zo de suit ele je kha jo ko te ta gu cha si khani ke te e da si la khane te ti shu jo thau te se ni si mo tse ta zo ko o da ki be zo ta tse si ga la tse li ta ga le ti ma si
Member from Yelney Center.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did want to comment on some observations made by the minister, and before I get into my overall comments. But you know, it's funny. We often say about, you know, get them on a wedge issue. That's how you corner somebody. This feels like a wedge issue. Oh, it wouldn't work in the small communities. I say, then I guess, how do we do anything in the small communities by that attitude? I mean, Mr. Speaker, training's important. I mean, if it's important enough, we will find a way. Could you imagine doing meetings over Zoom and training over Zoom? People take their masters over Zoom, you know, so there's ways to do these things. And if training is in the way of filling jobs, I guess maybe we'll fill absent teacher people with, we just pull somebody off the street and say, hey, you're now a grade 7 science teacher. No, I'm being silly, clearly. Training matters. And if it's important, it matters, and we will find a way, because it matters, Mr. Speaker. So, I mean, I rebuke the whole craziness in my mind, that is, that you cannot, that becomes a barrier. As a matter of fact, I think people like training. And I think they enjoy the opportunity of learning more and growing and strengthening their skill sets, and the relationship that comes with those types of things. So, I mean, the minister can scoff and shake his head and all of these things. I think it's an opportunity, not necessarily a weight to drag people down at the bottom of the water, Mr. Speaker. It is a huge opportunity. But more importantly, interestingly enough, if we think about the opportunity of the individual who has the training, but let's look at the people that are serving of the opportunity. I mean, okay, visually, it doesn't look so good on Hansard, but that said, visually, I say, well, I'd want to be served by somebody with training or without training. It's a tough thing to communicate. And say, oh, it's a barrier? I mean, my goodness. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to get back to what I was going to say, and it's important. Training is important, creating opportunities is important, growth is important. So I find that very difficult from a government that should be trying to raise people up, not the other way around. So, Mr. Speaker, in case you didn't know, I will be supporting this motion. And in case wasn't clear, I just wanted to make sure that's on the record. I mean, ultimately, this motion is fundamentally about safety, accountability, and respect for frontline healthcare heroes in our territory. They are heroes. I mean, sometimes they are the first on the line. They're under fire in different ways, and I don't mean from guns, but I'm saying in the sense of stress, whether it's fire, whether it's dogs, whether it's what upset people. It is a difficult job, the stress that they take on, and that has to be recognized. The fact that we need immediate consultation with our paramedics and our teams out there to ensure that their voices are heard in this potential of regulating this industry. This is a very important one. Every single day, as we know, paramedics are out there doing their thing, sometimes in a more stressful situation than others, no different than doctors or lawyers or firefighters or people who fly planes. But they deserve the respect of their industry, that it's framed up in a way that it could be served properly and professionally. And it's not to take away from the individuals when I say it that way, it's just their system has a system, and it's time we recognize that. Mr. Speaker, this concept is about making sure we roll out into all our communities. So whether our paramedics are delivering services in Yellowknife, as the minister had said, yes, might be easier here, maybe even in Inuvik and Haver it might be easier. But keep in mind, these are the same paramedics that are driving down gravel highways in the back of something, trying to help somebody, or even flying in the back of a plane as it's making its way on a trip, an emergency trip potentially. These are essential services, Mr. Speaker. So let's be clear what we're talking about. We have professionals who perform critical roles in our society. We have matured enough to say we need paramedics as a society. We need to mature enough as a government to say we need to support them in structuring that. So our first responders manage many acute traumatic situations. And part of their process and training helps them get through that. And this structure, this concept of the motion helps support the fact that we are behind them, and we're going to help create a structure as pointed out. So this is all about the continuum of care in a professional way. So as we look forward, we need to integrate these highly skilled professionals into our communities and in our city and in our regional centers with these types of community models of care review. So despite any immense weight to detract from that, we cannot allow them to operate in any type of regulatory vacuum. We have to recognize their service needs structure. And to understand that, as pointed out in the motion, consultation, they need to be part of that framework. So first and foremost, let us not forget they fill a critical role, as I pointed out. And certainly, that often they are the switch off between picking someone up at their worst to getting them to the next level of professional teams. Again, there needs to be work with that. Mr. Speaker, I just want to plug ahead, and I'm almost done, by the way, but I want to plug ahead and say this isn't necessarily a perfect model of anything. The North has to adapt to a community-level model of care. It's not going to be easy. So in other words, just like Aurora College, you'll have a campus somewhere, and you have learning centers. This may be introduced in different ways, which is here's the structure, here's the framework, and it rolls out slightly different throughout the region. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and write this today on the floor of the House. Give it time to create, foster, develop, and find its way into some type of solution that works with these folks. Mr. Speaker, lastly, that this also protects the paramedics as well. So when we talk about how important the structure and training is and reliability, but we need people in the paramedic industry to be supported and recognize that they have risks and need to be protected. So, Mr. Speaker, the important part here is that we must give this a go by regulating paramedics locally and territorially. I'm convinced we will achieve 4 critical goals. We'll ensure the public is safe, we'll help mitigate liability, We will allow professions to grow, such as them, and we robustly will support emergency services to our residents in the most safe and practical way. So let us vote together and help support these paramedics, Mr. Speaker, and I urge the government to take this very serious because it is very serious. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To the motion, member from Decho.
Decho tsuk ade je kontega. Akadema setena kote. Adacho yellow knife ade dati kait iwandi. Atlatesi county de senezuki gai does go. Adakati na hinshu eji destro agency. Kadion kali kasa kyuchani deji dene khanitsa keda ko tsake tias go. Atla konta tsake dene jali mechi khanishu tsani de gedi. Ara khadi du thajik au de khati sene zumigat etazgo. Ada khoti metso only lani da na tseki metso ketet agale di de chozo ke gade goinde. Ani ve budle tsak gade gonde. Masitena gote. Era khade je du thale je jondanet ese jo gade go tsako indedi. Era je ko nani shu tene those dia se khautia jo thadi kudanda ta se ko ge yunde. Ko on se je khane the ko tiwa se ne zeni de so khate me so ketene ati. Era de shu kha hytle je zo wala gin down de geti. Atla tomdi da intlena se tiu khane je zo ko gen de sonde. Era se shu sene je mete na de gati. That's like kind of thing. Na hishu ajon cloude on care. It cannot send a go none gates in the cloudy modes at the Atlanta state as only. And I could a shigonane shoe at the sick county any day. And I could eat the sick county any day. She sent it to me all at does go. Era eji gonane shuti khani megats etanide eji shua jon cloude eji da se ajon cloude metso gots eliga sonde ke shu khani de se okyuno satse ke tashi metso gots ete unde khani ho ji gonane ji mo tse tisi sene zitene kyukin shwa go o era tiasi counting de sene zoom Etichoji tatle khanik elilaniats etlegas go And I caught the sick honey met all day arsi senezi go get deji semet all day on day. And I cut it a honey de dicho sanet ejok out the jacking it a ho kashets on a go get lea sony. And I tiaji kanit and not se kaki on seji semet all day on day get and as issue Ejimera atlaje ka hytle tiajo is gade zongola kintara sinju ka kontena thegati. Na khote je framelets a gade zon ka kontega na khadi masitena kote. Na khadi si khane theshu etia si kha jo thaute je zoku kinte on de geti atla mi khania jo thaute si zongola geta je zon nezia ko kin lasi de tishu ka Je me sens only lani da contena thegati. Ala je kaude tsak esu rasi khania ke tagago o. Ala khati masi tena kote. Ala khati frame blades like all the shukashets on kakwin down there. Ela na hishu ka hitle je me zokuts in down there. Rasi shi soi mente na thegati. Sa tuzok other kakwinda. Tune de wele dets like other zonkondega. Da kati masi tena kote. Da katina hishu kasale da mukotsante und da disemet out there und da jila downti da jon saude me kani kontats kani dene ageti si hu sekots eliasundi atlante den se könts keshu katene sanete ji kandi geti wakinte da si shukati mente nathigati. Da eşek ağdası jüjecek güteni de sonra da kademasi dene kote da diasi semet ağde onde da eşek onan eşu sene zemnata sekot elias go da kademi kaniki kotsa dile kanitsek da kothageti da çok hak genti Canada go Asian şu kantit aki itle ko chule gala tatsak Kozo konane şu amiki koza entile tsak agili jigala ke te wangint kozo te din şu kanitsak et ai goalkene te wangint Edaje konane şu asi county ko dinatik ojon tsake gala ki tek hetsake khanita go tsake tiwagint Edate tasi county ni tek hatula sun shetsansi seko ke leson de Edaje konane şu tasi megatsa dane de Ejin şu ajon cloude asi khanit o sene si gala ke tawagint Atlaitani ta mula desho si tsogala keta khani waketi. Asi county de tinshutani de gala keta khani atlatuten desho ke khagyunt eleta. Eji asi county me tson setuli keti waketi. Atla eji khani Tle kuwaki aini de eji gaili lani da si kanitso egala keta wakinte. Eda kuti etimigatse etani de kia jami ki kotsa intile si kothake eji hi kani was edut ele ami kani chokotin de ku keji kani tsek eta kuwa ne thon. Eji kamdi wakete. Kaudeni de kadule jojo kaude kutlin de kutin kyan sila deni lasi ji kani ko tsek eset ulegeti Kauni de jokageti ami kani ko wonde tonzo kani ko tagyu tinke kani ko nane ami ko tsain dile tsek ko tageti kadule ko tageti suni ko geti Era chotene akote si shuka jo laute jo sampagin li ko tsakonana si kani wain taon de gede. Era kote kontatsa gede ni de se sene jo laute meton se ko tselias go o. Era ediaju kak Kukin de la je kotlin de ko keji wa kin tiun La kadema si je kaude jon kaude je zokoin de eni ve budle tsank eshu Eshila konane mi de tsank kaude sin zola geta ko gede And that the county de sene is so called the get does go on that she has met out there on there. And I could Ejila se asimet out there on the day. And that she met like as you sene is so called the not anything others go on. And that the canin mitlen that's a she se met out there on there. atla on cashew ka joansi kanitso wala geta wagente. Edashi konane ko tin sambanadle kyujin tek ekjako lasi de tin shukasi kanitso wala geta onde erasin shudi intlenatse kane eji untats utsigeti da eji kakonte na thewant edi. Ejila ke dichon sampagin li ta ke tiwats ediutele asho kotlin te ku kejin tanida khania sitson neziko o ke ti khanits ke ya o ke ti un te ke ti Kamdini de sene jajzo ke ti as go asin shuji metso ke te ut ke ti Ala khati kawona sensi de nasha Race it's like out there, and if it bootlegs like out there, Murphy's like out there, frame blades like out there, gray slates like out there, Mackenzie Delta's like out there, Yellowknife North's like out there. Trinidad Willa Dead's like out there, Sawtooth's like out there, Yellowknife Center's like out there. Amigo de Getet Arasina Shagedi. Amisha and Naginita Island Nasha. Yellowknife South, Cam Blades like out there, Haver North's like out there, Haver South's like out there, and everything's like out there, and then that puts like out there, that shows like out there.
Colleagues, 10 in favor.
Hono king diko zon satin kishet zona kini daga ila kait na sen da de dong. Da internatse ji a tets internatse ga geta. Go zon internatse tsake ko geta. International Silano Thailand IGM going to 26, 27 sia tezon shek ejake chegedi. 8.2 bracket 3 bill 53 lilanit a edition kashu kililani ke ejatia. Era is je contact ik al dus ook ontdekt. Frame dat ik al de ontdekt. Da khati masit tena go desi a range like bill 51 sejila eji khane go getting asun kilina ne ke jatia eja megali na khatule ejin tleta go getting ale de eja mi go gala geta tle mi gatsin a ile de go din khandi ajon go getting again I get a tasi go atsin agedi Da kademasi dena go desi ejin tlanasi sila no sila megali dani da se josi intena dani se avogeti eji konane ami khani ko keteki da go jo sene ji etia go egeti eji khaniwa geti da eji megali lani tlekhen ko ala get dasi khani je kegele aji shume thatela la mi khani ko tleken disi de dia khani keteki ami ko ketitsin asia jo gede tha Gozo, don't you know, Sene is your gay in season gay. Erashi konane shulai megalina sane zingo diako teketi atla edicho sampa gindli ji semet ode aunte atla dicho shu kontats ke amikani te kwets ke gala ke dekeji go ketiki asijin shu khanik ke im gozo din tlena tsela megali lanit a amikani tleke ken disi ke shu tletno dagala ke tataji waketi Era kadimasi lilani da dicho siu kani kaki ogede. Era kadi edicho ami kani tsek egala getasi hütlish etso wala geta wakint egedi. Era eji shuse masidu sinethendi. Era tia mitle kwende geti si ete tia shuklaude jesi kili etzuli geti kani wako tingedi. Damitso gethetsin taka wana thensi dena lahle. Ami ko te gethet aga. Ami jetsana genitaga ilinta intatet on. Itlana se silano le sig kililani da igataga. Kotso Thailand da so jeketia. Framelets and all the contea. Da kademasi dena de si AG 8.2 bracket 7 kotso inclinatsi silano lesi Thailand jek ejagi tikete masi. Simetso mona fentantiga sonikete. And I cannot say in the Thailand is also jek ejagi tikete. Finance ejik all the contega. Era tenia go de C Camblets AG Bill 53C AG 2026-2027 on Kilinajek Ejaketi AG Megali Landi Downti Dacha Gotlin Detzak au decade 2026-2027 Sambat. I'll get a thing one get it. Raji Metzuk eteti dageti. A kawana then she metzuk etanata. Amigo de getet, amijets and like any tagaile. Cat and not say in that dead on. Is it not say Silano on Thailanida or Kilina Jack Asian gods on? Is it Thailanida so shake so shake here?
Colleagues, thanks for indulging me for a brief break. Second reading of bills. Minister of Infrastructure.
Today she contacts like all the contea. I don't think I go there see. So she have north like AC. Asian inclinatse silano si un kililani da jek eja getia. Edaji mega lilani da sene zu Crown Corporation kanitsek agelia. Daji metso getet in dagedi. Kawana thensi ejime dena la amigo de getet amijets ena genita gaile inclinatsen da katet on ejin inclinatse silano lila kan kilina jek eja gintigo Thai lilani de jek agetia. Ami konte na ke shasiji kretson thathageda. Erani tanatsio kililani wadi. Ejikonane asikona kots eteketi. A 445-20 goes a 483-20. And I should tunete well a dead like all the shit la fetawa.
I don't know about that. Thank you. I will now call.
Arak echo. And if you put lay that thing as on a got a massy, Arak had it teachers you take a day. Tashin betsoy get it, I get a comet on at the sit in a latte. I may go take a head aga. Cut the nuts in that dead on. Cut your nuts in there, get it.
Thank you.
Tunete well a dead like all the contega. The Kadimasi Denagote, Eda a bill 3 cannot say 445-20 bracket 1, 483-20 bracket 1. Goods oh Eshiko issue a district and dance in Monaco's utilagati. Eda Academy, she's like a ticket, a gate. Kamets ogonathing denalatle. Amigo tek et het aga. Amishet ona genita gale intlena senta kadet on. Et ati di thailila intlena se khanike gaitaga. Ela dicho intlena I qalde kontea. Edak hadi siko nane haver north bill 32 alien public service act ejila unkililanit I megatsu taketi dashi metso ketets in ageti. Raise it's like all the Pontea. Da khati masite na kote. Da khati na hishu khasera da lilani da di mezo kotsinte on te keti atla atsezo. Jo hitle ko kinte on te. Da aketa so. Ejila konane shu I awo ko kinte le. Adaki Saskatchewan eke 2013 eke tlana se kaki onsi ejila mi konane kanega la keta ho hitle ko kinte atla section 41.1.4 eke ageti Ada kote kaunten de ta ho katule I kosenishan ti tsa thake da soni Edati asi kaunten de eji kuti edi chu khani khare da kyunu haitsel ju kheke tetsanke eji ta se ju thaute eji 41 bracket 1.4 ta seu eji charter raja tintaute soniat eji atsanke Ada kote de asi kaunten de Ejin shu sene zyo jun thaute mi khani ko hegala keta ko zo mi ko tlinte ko keji ko gala kenta si ejin shu ko zo jo ko nane shu I khani ko wagi launde Atlajia jo khami kaude khani gala keta si ami ko gala keta si ji khani tse ke wageti Da de tin shu sene zi ko nane shu sene zi so thauta si the he la so go Kauntiani de ete ti shu ta ko eke ti si khani ko kya ko te ga so go eta ti tlana se thano o khili lani ta ti ami khani ga la ken ta ko tse ke je awa ke ti Eta khuti is section 41.1 bracket 1C agent shu mega lilani da ji public servants ke khaniwa ke te da ji swa te ko na te ni di as go khani ho tena se thano khits ke si agent shu eji ko ti ami khani egala ke ta eji mega lilani da sene zu ajo go as go Kozo emega lilani da etia sia jo khane ko te gala ke ta ke sene ze ko tsu le ke ti Right na se thano o khila emega lilani da sene ze jo si ako ke le ga zo o atlai shi ko nane shu khasi kho khane mo ko ke te un Eda kuti ko nane shu eti khane asi ho ko ke te si Eji ta ho le haits only lanit a jets only jako ke legason di Edati a si county de shu se jets ongala ke ta go o a si county lilani da ta se eji a si on kililani da ji mehete launde Ami shu si khane ko tsao ti si khata hu je tsa ko ke lega sone Eda khati asi county ne de taunte da jon tlaute metson se ko tsa lega son de je me ga lila de da sene jo sene ko tsin agas go atla mi khania jon ko he egala ko te gala ke ta ke khati wa ke ti Daji mega shu ami khane ko te asi gala kenta ko tson tas eji asi lo khane wo ko gente unde Ko nane shu ami khane tlanta ko ke insi eji shu khane wo hitle ko gente ena khotitia si hleshu hukukin tela ejila intlenatse thalilani me thanitsu zaketi atla dihle kin la sikhisene zya kotin laut ele atla tene hlo khane ko gala keta wankinte rana hinshu dikha ajun cloud intlenatse lila unkik anshu kene ke ligazo ko tzunti thalin intleshu je thanya kin azgo counting deji amia jo tlaute je tso seko ke liazgo rajo tene ako tesi tiasi tase jo tako nisi ajo tlaute die alilane seko ke le taunti gasundi Tati tlenatse unkililani da sene zu ia miku ketadentits kelilani da sene ziago ke liazgo Eda jimetson only line tlenatse datet agasgo eda dia mitene keladentishu sheke gala ketaga kudejilant Eda eji dichon sambanalets ekerik all the con dichon wala kintada tia shuats edisene zin kukiri agasgo Eda eji tene keladenti amikhani gwagala geta keshu keshu dikya nitson wala geta ele kutunta se khanits ekeda gwone tendam disoni Eda din tlenats ekeshu kotegya li line de taho eji seje keke agodeji sundi Edatia sik hani thali lani da tlenat seje eko ke tseni dene ziwandi county ko nane shwa mi khane gala ta tseke ikwa gala ke tatle kau de tseke si ako ke leko tsoti thali lani da ji ko nane shu eji ami khane ajo khane ko ase ko ke insi jin shu ako ke legete Eratia mik haneji ko hegala getasi ejin shu sene zu ajon tlaute mik ko gala getasi ko seko ke lega zo go o Ada khati ejin shu ka hut lejo ko kin de onte o ke atia si county de sene zemi ko na the ko gala getasi ejin shu ko tsake tia zo go wa siu khililane me thathe launte Etiasi county de tase ne zia ko tisuni keti Ena kuti kontats ke etia jo khanishe ke ko ki line de Ikonane je tso seko ke lias go Ami khane ko he gala geta atla I public service esi ko gala geta si khane wa geti Asi county ni de sene zu jo tlaute konata seko ke lias go Ena khadi kenta lilanit asi khani atsetani de kha jonza jon tlaute kenta me konti khani menata thela so go Rajo tene ako tesi ejikunane shuitlana se thano kigilana tsulegeti eji a thela ji hono tsenta sita tlesi 30.72 tsanke ako geti Atlaja mi khani jo se ke ko senija intine chasi ejin shu de dia jo cloud ta ku te ke disi khani ke ga tas go Eda koteji khani ke ko senija intine chago ke sisi Supreme Court ke disi ede dia jo cloud asi khani zo ake ta ga go Atla I kutaketi khani ageti 30 section 32.72 Ejila jo asitlo de khani mejita tle honde Totun te asi county de ejikonane shutane ta ko kele asonti Iko nane shami khane ko hegala geta kise o kyashune zia ko tiuntele khane shimetso only lanit a ko senija inti khane ko na tatsin line de jamet au de on teketi Eda ejiko nane shute aji khane tsangala geta si seneza si ke gaita go And I could the county de Miko Senisha and Tits and Kessias on Cloudinate Zuki Taketi. Dene go desi, as she met on one day Sinti.
Towards complying with Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, I cannot in good faith support Bill 32. While I acknowledge the many hours of work put into the review of this legislation by the Standing Committee, the fundamental defects of the Public Service Act remain unaddressed, as they did at second reading. To further complicate this, there is still no clarity on when the proposed Labour Relations Board amendments will be brought forward. Passing this bill will be committing the NWT Public Service to a half-baked labour relations scheme that is apparently going to be, the dispute mechanism of which is apparently going to be repealed and replaced in what, a few months? It's unclear. But it makes no sense to me, or most reasonable people, to establish an entire new labour relations dispute mechanism and then immediately repeal it with something else. This is not good lawmaking from this member's perspective, Mr. Speaker. It continues to speak to a piecemeal approach that continues to support a constitutionally dubious labor regime underpinned by legislation that is, again, is overly cumbersome, large, and must, if not, well, should, if not must be split in order to better serve both the public and the public service and all public servants. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, I will not be supporting Bill 32. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Rangeley. To the motion. Question has
There's an I get the yellow knife sounds like a CG. I mean, get this as on our shaggy. Yellow knife sounds like all day, cam lights like all day, hair sounds like all day, and if it twin lights like all day, Nana puts like all day. Satoots like all day, and if it boot lights like all day, frame blades like all day. Gray slates like all day, Mackenzie Delta's like all day, Yellowknife North it's all day. Amigo deck et hit arajonasha. To the day well it dead's like all day, Yellowknife Center's like all day, Range slates like all day. Amiki jets en like genita island nasha. Dakati hono se jets on walking digots o it highly like jets o nakinita gaile. Edate cut highly lanida so it is chon gegaita da and I could it is WSCC like all the guntega. Et then I go there, see, as you go, none is your never tune lay, say, a bill 48, like a lilanit, as you key, see, you key highly lanit, make a jats of ticket, as you met look at it, I get it. However, salt like a metzon get it if that the cow nothing, see, metzon nasha. However, salt like all there. And if you tune that's like all there, and night puts like all there, to the day well that's like all there, Satoots like all there, Yellowknife Center's like all there, Range lights like all there, and if you boot lights like all there, frame lights like all there, Gray slates like all there, Mackenzie Delta's like all there, Yellowknife North's like all there, Yellowknife Sales like all there, Cam lights like all there, Haverford North's like all there. Amigo take et hit aga zonasha. Amishets and like in it dog ila zonasha. Rakati Hono sunlai jets and will get the Eda Eji tenatse it's entunoting. Kat highly lanejek ejagetia. Frame blades like all the gontega. Da kati masitena gote. Eda kati range eji tenatse silano sesi. Eji kani du kani intlekens like getting a kaniwa sindida. She means like get it in that gate. Frame blades like all the range that's like all the. Eda kati masi. Eda dishon simits okuntena. Atla me dishon daje sesi junju guinteonde. La kati masi lilane just sambanale jek out de jonge zoko guintegedi. Era na hishu hi lilane da mezo galats eta onde. Era kati masi lilane jezo galageta gede. Era kodi dia se counting de ejinshu sene su ajon cloud jets on les yakoge ion degedi. Dajitna eda frame de katisi aji wona thende dejo nasha. Frame that's like out there, Grace Dave's like out there. Mackenzie Delta's like all there, Yellowknife North's like all there, Yellowknife South's like all there, Camlet's like all there, Harever North's like all there, Harever South's like all there, and every tune's like all there, and then I puts like all there. To the day well it is like all there, Dashhold's like all there, Sawtooth's like all there, Yellowknife Center's like all there, Range Date's like all there, and New Bootlade's like all there. Amigo te get hit aga. Amigo just anake dinita gaila jonasha. Eda hono it's entaje on gate. Eda itlanatse e silano on kheli lanita Thailand lanita ejek ejaketi tsotlatageda gede. Eda kuti dicho amikani is some what's like out in the day. Eda kati eji internase silano kisi eji le 2020 se 2027 si Thailand lanita make eja tsutidida eji mezona tsujakedi. Eda internase tsontsedi. And a Yellowknife South here as your metzonasha cookie. And a car, I mean, one, then see as your metzonasha. Yellowknife South like a Camlets like all the Harever North like all the Harever South like all the and the between that's like all the I puts like all the to the day well it is like all the Dashholds like all the Sawtooths like all the Yellowknife Centers like all the Range Dates like all the Invict Bootlates like all the Framelets like all the Grace Dates like all the Mackenzie Delta's like all the Yellowknife North like all the midgets and like a dean tag I jonasha. I make here it's like a taking tagale. And I cut the as you know it's entire will get the. Eda kutiti intlenatse silano kilina kataili lani dajek ejaketi zotlatake daga. Eda kutiti cho sampatsanke gaude. Eda kadeshi gonaneshu intlenatse silano on tai. Eji lela 2026 2027 si tailina make ejats utiketida. Eji mezok etets intada zonats ujadi. Eda Edajo Yellowknife Sausage metso nuts ujati ami ukeni tesi denasha. Yellowknife South like all the Camblades like all the Harever North like all the Harever South like all the and New Victorian like all the Nana puts like all the. Tunede wille dit en gaude, Dechholz en gaude, Sahtuts en gaude, Yellowknife Centers en gaude, Racelets en gaude, Nuve Bootlets en gaude, Framelets en gaude, Gracelets en gaude, Mackenzie Deltats en gaude, Yellowknife Lords en gaude. Amigo dek etet asi jonasha, mijets en akinita gaile jonasha. Dakati, eji khonuets en tarjets onugedi. Edaitlenatse tanosun lailina tailina nishek ejaketi zonte tage agedlegedi. Rakoti jon ekentisi jonju kotsantesi nadadia. Dakadim masitene agotese. Rakoti jikonane shudi eji tani zenta eji okuno 2026 ya tezo hejats ade ti gozo kaude kukin dek etata kukin ke ta kiaju agedisi asi isi betse gozo kukin de. Daki 4 bracket 2085 2 bracket 1. Da kotejik enta sigalagenta. Bracket 1, 40 bracket 1, 41 20 bracket 1, 42-20 bracket 1, 43-20 bracket 1, 46-20 bracket 1. Edajik etalina de asigainta gozo ejigonane shutlana seguita e ejigonane shuasuko geta sigaita gozo dia tezo si hokogente okililane shugainta. Eda bill 3, bill tie 44 bracket 1. Masitana go de. Lakhati Sachuntani Zenta, 8 and Satin 2026 Itlesatsuntani Gashu Kena need a Gedi Masi.